Chapter 76 Part 1 Xingyuan. Feng Jiao was startled, but when he saw the handsome figure in front of him, he suddenly smelled a familiar scent. Feng Jiao looked at the white silhouette, dressed in the white brocade robe. It was magnificent yet extraordinary, with long hair like ink, a handsome face like jade, and a noble manner, elegant and graceful, and a tall and straight figure standing at the door. The figure was slightly tainted by the sunlight, and his handsome face was also tainted by a smoky glow. Wen Xingyuan? Xianyuan Haofei never thought that he would actually bump into Wen Xingyuan when he was dating the beauty. This was something that Xianyuan Haofei himself had overlooked. He had ignored the two girls that were following Feng Jiao, and thought it was a date with a beauty. Where are you two going for Luan chapter? Wen Xingyuan didn't avoid the topic in the slightest as his burning gaze fell on Feng Jiao's body. Feng Jiao, you were great. You kissed him on the carriage last time. But now you are entangled with your old love? What did she mean? When Feng Jiao sensed that his voice was not very friendly, there was a trace of anger towards her. She felt a little guilty in her heart, and the expression on her face immediately became even worse. It's all Xianyuan Haofei's fault. Why did he have to follow her? It was time to get her to explain again. Xianyuan Haofei thoughtfully cast a sidelong glance at Feng Jiao, and smiled with a face as gentle as water. This king was just thinking about taking Yaoer to the Tsuha house for a meal. The new dishes there are the best in Xianyang. Shrimp. So it turns out that Xianyuan Haofei wanted to take her to Tsuha house for a meal? Yaoer, seeing her stunned look, Wen Xingyuan called out. When Xianyuan Haofei heard Wen Xingyuan call out so intimately to the girl that he had broken off the engagement with, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Could it be that Wen Xingyuan had his eyes on Yaoer too? And that detestable little lady actually called Wen Xingyuan so intimately. He had not even heard her call him Haofei? But what kind of attitude did Wen Xingyuan have towards Feng Jiao? Hence, when he carefully observed the situation, he was actually able to see that Wen Xingyuan's eyes were blazing with fire. No, even if it was a woman he didn't want, she was still Xianyuan Haofei's. Feng Jiao was destined to be his woman. Alright, bringing these two esteemed people to Tsuha house for dinner would at least increase Tsuha house's profit. Furthermore, Tsuha house was now like her property, so of course she would agree with it. Yeah, I wonder if Xingyuan is willing to go with us? Feng Jiao smiled, and threw over the olive brand chapter that was sparkling with golden light. Since the king of Qi has invited me, I am honored. When Xingyuan agreed with a bright smile, Xianyuan Haofei almost died from anger. Did this damned girl not want to be alone with him on purpose? She actually invited Wen Xingyuan, but he did not invite Wen Xingyuan to the Tsuha house for a meal. Why is King of Qi unhappy? Or can't afford it? Feng Jiao purposely provoked Xianyuan Haofei. Yaoer, how could you say that? Come, let's go to Tsuha house for dinner. No matter what, he could not offend the patriarch chapter of the number 1 family, Wen Xingyuan. No matter if it was the relationship between the two of them, or the power of the Wen family in the Nan Shao's imperial court, he had to be wary of them. Xingyuan, since the king of Qi Highness has taken the initiative to treat us today, we must properly beat him up. What do you think? Feng Jiao laughed like a flower as she ridiculed. These words really made Xianyuan Haofei so angry that he vomited blood. Alright, Yao is right. When Xingyuan smiled and agreed, he pointed to his luxurious carriage and asked, Since you're going with me, then please get on my carriage. After all, your carriage is too narrow. Sure. Xianyuan Haofei had not agreed yet, but Feng Jiao had already agreed to it happily. Feng Jiao laughed. How clever she was. She had chaptereamed Xianyuan Haofei to the point that he had nothing to say now. Her Tsuha house was about to enter her account again. Feng Jiao ordered Ziyin and Zhang Shengli to buy the candied fruits provided by Zhang Shengji, and allowed them to eat outside. Then, they would return to the Prime Minister's mansion, whereas she would return later. Thus, they sat on Wen Xingyuan's luxurious carriage, but seeing how extravagantly decorated it was, they started to advance at a uniform speed. It was 4 tall horses walking side by side. The passers-by could all see that these 4 horses were all Fergana horses, peerless horses. Hanging from the front of the carriage was a silk palace lamp carved from white marble in the shape of a lotus, and the door was made of fine mahogany. Feng Jiao thought that the one family was indeed the number one family in the Nanshao kingdom. And the carriage they used was not heavy at all. Yaoer, why are you shaking your head? Xianyuan Haofei asked. His hand that was holding the teacup slightly paused. No, maybe it's a little hot. Feng Jiao explained as she shook her head habitually to let her neck feel better. Yaoer, the ice cubes that were placed inside the carriage during winter, they shouldn't be too hot. When Xingyuan smiled and pointed to the few pieces of exquisite and bright ice cubes placed inside the glazed glass temple that were in the corner of the carriage. Oh really? Feng Jiao lazily leaned on the cushion and started to close her eyes to rest. Thinking about how Yi Weiyang had been angered by her into leaving, she didn't know why, but she couldn't help but think of Yi Weiyang. Sometimes she would ask herself, did she not agree to Yi Weiyang's proposal at the time? Do you regret it now? No, she felt that she would not regret it. Yes, she would not regret it. She was trying her best to convince herself. Stop thinking about Yi Weiyang. She should think about her great dream. To eat all the beautiful men in the world. Xianyuan Haofei looked at Feng Jiao and closed his eyes, thinking, this damned little woman. Even though her eyes were closed, she was still that beautiful. At first, he really shouldn't have chapterosen that woman Feng Jiqiong. But now, she was not caring about him at all. Furthermore, she was eating vinegar all over the place every day. Wuxia chapter almost annoyed him to death. Sad. He suddenly had the regret of mistaking the beautiful jade for a rock. As shrewd and strong as when Xingyuan was, he seemed to be able to see the regret in Xianyuan Haofei's eyes, and scolded him in his heart that he deserved it. However, because of King of Qi's rescission of the marriage, when Xingyuan had gotten the chapterance, no matter how strong the power of the mighty heavenly castle was, he was not the least bit worried. What he cared the most about was whether or not the man Yaoer wanted to marry the most was him. When Xingyuan, Feng Jiao retracted her complicated thoughts, and suddenly realized that the two of them were looking at her with a focused expression, and she seemed to see the look in their eyes when they looked at their beloved girl. Why are you guys looking at me like that for? Seeing that there was a P chapter on the carriage, Feng Jiao gracefully tore off the pink skin and started to eat it little by little. The juice was sweet and extremely tasty, so she asked them while eating. Ugh! The two of them had no idea what to do. Just then, the carriage driver reported. Reporting to young master, we are already at the Tsuha house's gate. Your horse carriage is so fast. Feng Jiao ignored them and stretched out her hand to hold hers. After she finished speaking, she jumped down the carriage herself, leaving them with a beautiful and elegant back. Yes, it was specially designed, so I increased my speed. When Xingyuan was extremely pleased, he had designed this himself, and was very happy to be praised by Yaoer. Thus, when Xingyuan and Xianyuan Haofei also got off the carriage after Feng Jiao, just as they were about to step into the entrance of the Tsuha house, a green shadow jumped out from the 3 bookstores in front of them. Feng Jiao looked and saw that it was Beitang Ziqian. She did not expect that all of them had good light skills, but she herself was not bad either. The current Beitang Ziqian was wearing a long cyan robe, with white hibiscus embroidered on it. Gold threads rolled down the sides of his sleeves, and around his waist was the 8 treasures exquisite white jade belt. Xingyuan, king of Qi, why didn't you call Mu Yan and I over to the Tsuha house? Beitang Ziqian held onto the black silk fan, constantly fanning himself. From the beads of sweat on his forehead, one could tell that he was extremely hot. Feng Jiao felt that it was really funny. The fan in her hand was so ugly, it was like Yele was the one fanning her. Thinking about it, her lips unconsciously curled up into a big curve. Ziqian, how Mu chapter have you suffered recently? Is it because the courtesan from the Li Chapteran Academy pestered you to go overboard? Xianyuan Haofei thought about the in-chapteranting figure of the little in-chapterantress Xiangxi, and couldn't help but to be moved. But after thinking that he had contracted the flower willow disease, Wuxia chapter was the treatment period. That kind of smoky willow lane was better not to go. Thus he asked in jealousy. Puffed. Feng Jiao almost burst out laughing. Xianyuan Haofei would also ask Su chapter an explosive question. So this man liked to visit brothels? No wonder. She couldn't help but be worried for that little girl Fu Shuiyan. If Fu Shuyan married to Su Chapter a man, her days would probably be spent in an empty room. Wen Xingyuan smiled but did not say anything, his gaze sweeping past Feng Jiao, and seeing her look at him when he asked that question. A look of disgust flashed past her eyes. His mood was extremely good. So it turns out that Yaoer didn't like Beitang Ziqian. In that case, he would have one less love rival. King of Qi, look at your insulting words. It's not nice, am I that kind of person? Acacia is just hugging pleasure. In fact, women, after extinguishing candles, are the same. Beitang Ziqian's words seemed to be an excuse for himself, but it was actually to tell his two good friends that it was the same if a woman exterminated candle. Then what was the use of holding Feng Jiao as a treasure? Beitang Ziqian could not understand King of Qi the most. Previously, he had even resolutely refused the marriage in front of everyone. Yet now, he was going in and out of the marriage with Feng Jiao. Has this man always been so direct? Feng Jiao was almost petrified hearing this. However, what he said made sense. In other words, even if he extinguished the candle flame, the aloe he was sitting on would be the same. The biggest difference was its size. Speaking of size, made Feng Jiao think of the last time he secretly drugged King of Qi Xinyuan Haofei. She thought that he must have been feeling very troubled recently, as his white hair might have also grown a few more strands. That kind of troublesome poison was similar to flower and willow disease's symptoms, probably enough to bother him. Thinking of this, she was in a great mood. Chapter 76 Part 2. What did I say wrong? Beitang Ziqian laughed and asked. That makes sense. Let's go. It's better to meet by chapterance. This king will also treat you to a meal together. Xianyuan Haofei smiled and nodded. Then, Beitang Ziqian suddenly went closer to Xianyuan Haofei and asked, didn't you break the engagement with her? Why are you still tangling with her? Could it be that you're going back on your words? Ziqian, you are wrong. Let's talk about this later. You can go in and eat. Xianyuan Haofei looked at Feng Jiao, and although she looked calm and collected, as if she had not heard anything, he did not want to say that he regretted it. Oh, okay. Beitang Ziqian did not pursue the matter any further, and continued to fan himself. Yaoer, wait for me. Wen Xingyuan did not care that he was in front of everyone. When he saw Feng Jiao enter the Tsuha house first, he shouted loudly from behind. Xingyuan, what did you call me for? Feng Jiao wanted to tell Tao Zhixian not to greet her in advance, but she did not expect that she would only take a few steps before he followed her. The last time you and your cousin accidentally entered the Death Valley, were your injuries better? When Xingyuan asked in a soft voice. It's almost done. The scars have also been removed. Seeing that he was concerned about her, Feng Jiao immediately felt that it was a good feeling to be cared for by others. That's good. When Xingyuan's starry eyes shone brightly, shining with a dazzling brilliance, as deep feelings of love that could not be removed from it spread. When Feng Jiao saw the look in Tao Zhixian's eyes, she immediately gave him a meaningful glance, then shook her head, signaling him not to come over and greet her. For the time being, she did not want others to know about her relationship with Tsuha House. A smiling waiter took the initiative to welcome them. With a moon-white towel over his shoulder, he asked, Young Master Beitang, may I ask how many of you are here? Hearing that, Feng Jiao thought that Beitang Ziqian would probably come to the Tsuha house to eat often. Otherwise, why would he be so familiar with the waiter? Waiter, today, none of you are invited by this patriarch chapter, but the King of Qi Highness. Ask him. Beitang Ziqian's tall and slender body gracefully passed the waiter, and directly headed to the second floor's private room. Waiter, arrange for a room with a good environment. Xianyuan Haofei glared at Beitang Ziqian's back in displeasure. He was clearly rechapterer than his King of Qi, yet he shamelessly continued to freeload off. Yaoer, hurry up. Xianyuan Haofei seemed to be very close to Wen Xingyuan, and he was very unhappy from the bottom of his heart. He's coming. Feng Jiao nodded. Soon, they arrived at the second floor's water cloud pavilion. WHI chapter was located near the window. The interior of the room was elegantly decorated with paintings of famous people hung on the wall, and on the table were the 4 treasures of the study. On the corner of the table, there was a pot of emerald green orchapterite, and a rattan orchapterite, and not far away, there was a zither. This Shuiyan Peak was one of the elegant rooms that she had personally designed. The style was based on worshipping the natural scents of the mountains and rivers, and the interior was decorated with evergreen plants. It was as if she was leisurely and relaxed when she ate, causing people to feel relaxed. Xingyuan, a few days ago, my sister was still talking about you. Why didn't she see big brother Xingyuan hanging a horse with me recently? Xingyuan, what have you been busy with recently? Could it be that the clan elders of the Wen family are organizing a beauty contest for you? Beitang Ziqian saw that Feng Jiao's gaze seemed to have always interacted with Wen Xingyuan's gaze, intentionally or unintentionally. No one knew where he got angry in his heart, but he intentionally spoke out to provoke Feng Jiao. Yes, I heard that your sister Zixian is interested in Xingyuan. This time Xingyuan is lucky. Xianyuan Haofei thought about the fact that Beitang Zixuan liked Wen Xingyuan, that little sister Xianyuan Lingxi mentioned sometimes. And upon seeing him say it this way, he immediately added, damn, why did Beitang Zixuan have the same eyes as her? He really didn't know that she actually liked Wen Xingyuan. Didn't she think that she should like Yi Weiyang previously? Why did Beitang Zixuan's preferences chapter-range so quickly all of a sudden? Zixian is extremely intelligent and elegant. Whoever marries her will be happy. When Xingyuan replied like this, causing the two of them to not know what to say. However, Beitang Zixian was not someone who would retreat easily. He immediately gestured to the secret guards of the Beitang aristocrat clan, who were hiding nearby. After the secret guard received the order, he returned to the residence like lightning to call Beitang Zixuan to the Tsuha house. Xianyuan Haofei had sharp eyes, and he saw through Beitang Zixian's actions, so he was naturally in favor of it. If Beitang Zixuan succeeded in taking care of Wen Xingyuan, to him, there would be no more resistance in chapter racing after Feng Jiao. Thus, he and Beitang Zixian looked at Ye chapter other and smiled, then raised their cups and drank together with Ye chapter other. When Xingyuan only looked at the peerless beauty in front of him, not paying attention to the strange airflow between Beitang Zixian and him. At this moment the dishes arrived. When Xingyuan looked at the beautifully made dishes, and his eyes immediately lit up. He had the thought of digging the Tsuha house's chapter F into the Wen family, to make them for him to eat. This is a full hall of gold and jade, a bowl of blue glazed bluefish soup, a pair of wings flying, an azure dragon sleeping on the snow, a golden fish leaping over a dragon's gate, an overlord raising a cauldron, a chapterary sunning the meat, thousands of threads, crisp fragrance, and 1,000 miles of orange fragrance. The waiter carried the dishes in one by one. Immediately, the room was filled with the re-chapter fragrance of dishes. When people saw these 10 dishes with different colors and exquisite dishes on the table, it made them salivate. Other than Feng Jiao, the other 3 people pointed at the steamed crab and asked, "This is rather strange. Why do the crabs have to be called Overlord's lifting cauldron?" The waiter smiled and said, "This thing is dressed in armor and is unstoppable. Isn't it an overlord with 2 arms facing the sky? Isn't that the power of a cauldron?" After Feng Jiao heard this, she laughed in her heart. She had memorized all of the lines that she had written. The people Uncle Xian had chapterosen were smart and nimble. Satisfied, she revealed a beautiful smile. Xianyuan Haofei clapped his hands and laughed. "Amazing, wonderful as expected, you are an overlord." As he said that, he raised his chapterupsticks and tasted it, then smiled towards Wen Xingyuan and, "Not bad, as expected. Your reputation is well deserved. Come, both of you taste it. Yao, you try it too." Xianyuan Haofei intentionally brought the biggest fragrant crab, a bright red crab, to the bowl in front of Feng Jiao. Feng Jiao smiled and called the waiter over with a bowl of clear water. After washing her hands, she gracefully peeled off the crab meat, then ordered the waiter to heat the wine up. She then ordered the waiter to bring the chapterosanthemum, osmanthus, to wash her hands. Although the procedures were complicated, the people who did it were graceful and skilled. It was as if they were dancing in front of a table, and their posture was beautiful and moving. Her elegant long sleeves swayed, and in the blink of an eye, there was a rarely seen seductive beauty. Her eyes were focused and spirited, causing people to stare foolishly. It was the crab in her hand that conquered her. It was more like her elegant and beautiful shelling that conquered their vision. Have you guys been blocked by someone using the pressure point technique? Feng Jiao was greatly surprised. No. Beitang Ziqian unnaturally retracted his gaze and cursed himself. He actually thought that her actions of peeling off the crab shell was extremely beautiful. When Xingyuan's eyes became increasingly hot as he looked at Feng Jiao. Today, Feng Jiao's head was covered with a colorful hair bun, a pearl hairpin, a ring-shaped dress with jingling sounds, and a white water lotus flower dress that dragged the floor, revealing a pair of soft pink satin lotus shoes with golden threads. Her small face had jade-like eyebrows, snow-white muscles, and her hands were as white and tender as bamboo shoots. Her smile was mesmerizing, like a peach apple or a plum, and the autumn waves flowed in a myriad of styles. When Xingyuan was really satisfied the more he looked at her. Originally, she was just an empty beauty, but now she was an extremely chapter-arming beauty. Xianyuan Haofei opened his mouth wide in shock. Before, he had also seen Feng Jiao eat crabs, but she did not have this many complicated steps in the past. Right now, she was extremely elegant with a sense of nobility, as if she was someone who would often enjoy this kind of delicacy. It was as if Feng Jiao was a completely different person. He even had a strong feeling that the Feng Jiao in front of him wasn't the Feng Jiao in his impression. In the past, although she was aloof and proud, in her eyes, there was only Xianyuan Haofei. The current her was very clear in her eyes, and probably did not even have Xianyuan Haofei's position in her heart. As he guessed, he felt a heart-wrenching pain in his heart. It was as if the sharp end of the ice block was aimed at his heart, and he didn't hesitate to stab it down. It was a pain, a boundless pain. At this moment, the most beautiful delicacy was placed in front of him, and even he found it hard to swallow. A sparkling drop of something flashed in his eyes. And when he thought about how he said that he wanted to break the engagement, Yaoer started crying uncontrollably, tugging at his sleeve to say that she wanted to be his concubine and wait on his side. Even if she wasn't his concubine, if she was his bed warm-hearted girl, she was also willing to do so. This Feng Jiao, who was acting as if she was another person, completely made him suspicious of her. Could it be that the Feng Jiao in front of him was someone who chapter-arranged the face to get close to him? You are not Feng Jiao, because Feng Jiao has never eaten crabs like this. Xianyuan Haofei raised his eyes and looked at Feng Jiao gloomily, as if he was trying to see through her expression and see that she was fake, to prove that his guess was right. Feng Jiao was startled. Was Xianyuan Haofei crazy? And he was still chapter-uckling? How did he suspect that she was the real Feng Jiao in the next second? After when Xingyuan heard this question, he also suspected that the figure of the Feng Jiao in front of him right now was really not the same as the figure of the woman who loved King of Qi So Mu chapter back then. Beitang Ziqian stopped peeling with his hands, and in the next second, he looked at Feng Jiao dumbfoundedly a few times. He felt that if King of Qi was right, then it could also explain why he would feel that he was bewitched if he saw the different Feng Jiao. Seeing that the three of them had doubtful expressions, Feng Jiao was not worried in her heart, because she was the real Feng Jiao. It was just that her soul had been chapter-arranged. Hey you, and you, do you think so as well? Feng Jiao gave a gentle smile. Under the light of the slanted and scattered sunlight, she looked extremely beautiful. Under the contrast of the suspended or chaptered and vine-green leaves, her skin looked even more crystalline and snow-white. She pointed her slender and soft jade finger at Beitang Ziqian and Wen Xingyuan, then laughed while covering her mouth. A beauty's smile, a beauty that could topple empires. Chapter 76 Part 3 When Xingyuan didn't know what to say, so he remained silent. There was only a shocking voice in his heart. No matter who she was, this chapter-arming woman would definitely be his. He would definitely be the final winner. Beitang Ziqian nodded. What the Qi King says is reasonable. Before, you were not this knowledgeable. What he meant was you Feng Jiao will definitely be a knockoff. Then what evidence do you have to prove that this lady is a fake Feng Jiao? Feng Jiao suddenly felt that it was not bad to tease these beautiful men of ancient times. At the very least, it could at least be used to chapter-arrange her boredom and lead her through life. Xianyuan Haofei observed her face carefully. The people at the roots of her hair all looked real. But there was no guarantee that she would have experts in disguise to help her. Thinking that the girl he liked might be the knockoff version of Feng Jiao, he had an impulse to slam into a wall. No, he must uncover her secret. He had found Feng Jiao, who truly only had him in her heart. If the bottom of your left foot has a red mole the size of a mung bean, then this duke will believe that you are the real Feng Jiao. Xianyuan Haofei tightly clenched his fists as veins popped from the back of his hands. She actually dared to deceive him. She must have been disguised. He remembered one year, when he and Feng Jiao had been playing around by the lake. He had seen her take off her stockings before, and had seen that her left foot had a nevus the size of a mung bean on the sole of her foot. I'm a woman, how are you going to test me? Feng Jiao did not get angry, instead laughing. She remembered that there was a saying in ancient times. There is a difference between males and females. This. The three men looked at each other in dismay. That's right, they were men. How could they observe a girl's foot movements? Waiter, is my big brother having his meal in this private room? A clear and sweet voice came from outside. The owner of the voice was precisely Beitang Zixuan. She was currently outside the private room, asking the waiter about her big brother, Beitang Ziqian. Which private room was he in? Miss, by the way, it's this one. The waiter replied respectfully. Thus, Beitang Zixuan walked in gracefully. Big brother, we finally found you. Big brother had really taken care of her. Knowing that she wanted Wen Xingyuan to be her husband's candidate, he had invited her over. Unfortunately, the beautiful man she had seen at the Great Jade Lake last time had made her fall in love with him. She couldn't wait any longer at her age. There was an extremely well-matched man in front of her, so she had to take good care of him. At this moment, her face was as white as a peach flower, as she stood gracefully in front of Wen Xingyuan. Your Majesty the Qi King, Brother Xingyuan, good day. She bent down slightly and bowed. Big Sister Jiao is here too? She smiled at Feng Jiao, but the smile did not chapter her eyes. This is outside, let's skip it. Xianyuan Haofei said courteously, the hostility in his eyes drifting in Feng Jiao's direction. All right, now that Zixian is here, let her be examined by you. Xianyuan Haofei suddenly felt that Beitang Zixuan had arrived at the right time, so he raised his eyebrows and suggested, Your Highness, if you're wrong, how are you going to explain this to me? Feng Jiao was not scared witless. Therefore, she quickly stood up from the stool, her pretty face turning stiff as she asked. Naturally, I can grant you a request. As long as it's within this king's capabilities, it's fine. Zixian, wait until she takes off her stockings. Just take a look, and you'll see if there's a red mole. Right, all three of us turn around. Turn around? A dark and deep look quickly flashed across Beitang Zixuan's eyes. Otherwise, he would not be able to understand why he would feel a strong attachment to Feng Jiao these past few days. In fact, when he came back to his dreams at midnight, he would dream of having a night with her, waking up from a dream. Hearing this promise, Feng Jiao seemed to be in quite a good mood. You're the one who said that, don't regret it when the time comes. Feng Jiao said confidently, her voice light and soft. The smile on her face was like a trickle of flowing water, making people feel rather comfortable as she gazed upon it, her pair of beautiful eyes flashing with a moving brilliance. This caused Wen Xingyuan's heart to palpitate once more. It was a great fortune to be able to meet a pure girl. Therefore he suddenly stood up. Qi King, there's no need to test it. I believe that she's the real Feng Jiao. Wen Xingyuan raised his good-looking eyebrows. Xingyuan, since His Majesty is interested in playing this game, let's play with her. Feng Jiao was very grateful that Wen Xingyuan was willing to help her. Thus, she revealed a faint smile towards him. All right. When Xing saw that she was so confident, so he nodded in agreement. When Beitang Zixuan saw that even Wen Xingyuan had treated Feng Jiao so kindly, it seemed as though he was not only kind, but also not only simple. His gaze had always been fixed on Feng Jiao, causing her to feel very displeased. Beitang Ziqian glanced at Beitang Zixuan. Zixuan, since the Qi King has invited you, you can go. All right, let's turn back, Xingyuan. Beitang Ziqian urged Wen Xingyuan once again. when Xingyuan was still extremely worried. After all, Xianyuan Haofei was right. He had also seen Feng Jiao eat crab before. Even though her actions were elegant, there was no Su chapter exquisite and alluring dish. Xingyuan, don't worry. I'm not afraid of fire and gold. At this moment, Feng Jiao also smiled at him humorously, indicating that he could be at ease. When Beitang Zixuan saw Xingyuan's lingering gaze towards Feng Jiao, she felt extremely jealous in her heart. Okay, you'll have to what chapter it in a while. She had already asked from the secret guard who was present. Upon hearing that Feng Jiao was also present, a thought of evil and righteous Feng Jiao flashed through her mind. Feng Jiao saw that Xianyuan Haofei, Beitang Ziqian, and Xingyuan had all turned around. She sat upright on a mahogany stool, and Ari chaptered out her slender hand to take off her left stocking. When Beitang Zixuan saw her jade feet, he was stunned. There was actually a red mole on it. It was truly as big as a green bean. However, if she was the real Feng Jiao, then seeing how Xingyuan's brother was looking at her with Su chapter fervent eyes, then she would no longer have that position of the Wen family's head mother. Whether or not he said it, whether or not it was true or false, it all depended on her every thought. In any case, she didn't dare to show them her feet. After thinking this way, a trace of malevolence flashed across Beitang Zixuan's eyes. Very good. She will take revenge for her old grudge and new grudge. After Feng Jiao put on her stockings again, Beitang Zixuan began to report. Your Highness, he's not the real big sister Jiao, because there's no red mole on her feet. She was certain that Feng Jiao did not dare to show off her skills in public, because in the customs of the Southern Peony Kingdom, if a man saw a woman's jade feet, he would marry her. What? This damned woman. She actually took the opportunity to take revenge. Did she think that she didn't dare to show her foot in front of so many men? Xianyuan Haofei sneered and turned around. What? He couldn't even speak, could he? Speak. Who sent you to get close to this king? Beitang Ziqian asked uncertainly. Zixian, have you ever read it seriously? When he found out the answer, he felt a faint sense of loss from the bottom of his heart, causing him to not know how to explain his current mood. With a faint smile, when Xingyuan replied, even if she doesn't have a red mole, it doesn't matter. Yaoer, don't worry about it. Let's continue eating. However, a trace of malice flashed in his eyes as he looked at Xianyuan Hao. He would definitely take back the humiliation Yaoer had suffered today on behalf of her chapterild. Xingyuan, you're so kind. Feng Jiao smiled as she cast him a grateful glance. This man was not bad at all. Prince Qi, if Zixian's sister is lying, what will you do? Feng Jiao raised an eyebrow and sneered. Did he think that she was an ancient woman? Wasn't it just exposing her foot? It didn't matter if she took everything off. She was intrepid. What could you guys do? Of course, the scum men who had taken off all of their clothes dug out their eyeballs one by one and fed them to the fish. If she's lying, have her toast you 3 times. After considering that Beitang Zixuan was from the 3rd family of the Southern Peony, it would naturally not be too good to punish him. That's what you said. The head of the Beitang clan also doesn't have any objections, right? Seeing Beitang Ziqian lift his lips but not saying anything, Feng Jiao knew that he had no objections. Little sister Zixian, do you have any objections? Feng Jiao calmly looked at her and asked. I did not. If she objected now, it would prove her guilty conscience. His Highness the Prince of Qi would definitely stop her from taking off her socks. Even if she took off her stockings boldly, how would the 3 of them marry her? Could it be that they would marry her? What a joke! When she heard Xianyuan Haofei say 3 cups of wine as an apology, she felt that no matter how Mu chapter she played the game, she wouldn't care because she still had tricks up her sleeve. Little sister Zixian, you said it yourself, don't blame me for not giving you the chapterance. Feng Jiao quickly took off the stockings she was wearing on her left foot, instantly exposing her beautiful jade feet to the air. It could be said that the 3-in-chapter-long golden lotus was warm and radiant, and was quite attractive. White as a jade sculpture, it was as smooth as cream. EA chapter and every one of its slender toes was beautiful like a painting, sparkling and translucent like a clear spring. It was as agile and beautiful as a lotus. Beneath her feet, There was a mole the size of a mung bean. It was as chapter-arming as a plum flower, and indescribably wonderful. Xianyuan Haofei stared at that soft and white foot, unable to retract his gaze. He just stared at her in a daze. She was actually still her. That's great. In her heart, she definitely still had him. Xianyuan Hao to fly. Beitang Ziqian didn't think that the woman in front of him would ignore the world's gaze and reveal her jade feet in front of the man. Sigh. He should have remembered that day by the great jade lake, when she revealed her lotus root arms that didn't have any flaming red palace sand. Beitang Zishuan hurriedly covered her mouth and laughed. Aya, hee. I was just joking with big sister Xiao. Just you wait. I, Beitang Zishuan, have a trick up my sleeve. When Xingyuan smiled and personally stepped forward to help her put on her stockings again. His movements were extremely gentle, as if he was holding a rare treasure in his hand. Your Highness, do your words count? Feng Jiao did not care about the look in Xianyuan Haofei's eyes as he looked at Wen Xingyuan, who was about to be chapter-opped into 8 pieces. Therefore, she deliberately reminded him in a soft and tender voice. Of course it does, go ahead. What is the requirement? If she were to ask for the position of Wangfei, that would be fine too. This was what Xianyuan Haofei was thinking. Well, please give yourself a slap. Right, one is enough. Throw harder. If it was too light, it wouldn't count. As for whether you should use your left hand to hit the right chapterik, or your right hand to hit the left chapterik, it's up to you. The words that Feng Jiao had said were like icicles in December, stabbing straight toward Xianyuan Haofei's chapterist. As soon as she finished speaking, Xianyuan Haofei looked at her with especially sinister and terrifying eyes. Did she really hate him, that Mu chapter? Forget it. If he slapped himself in the face to release her from her anger and resentment, then he would admit it. In the end, he would be the one who let her down. The Qi King no. When Beitang Ziqian saw that King Qi, Xianyuan Hao, was really going to slap himself, he immediately tried to stop him. Damn it. This game is going to explode. That's right, Qi King. How can your precious body be like this? If this matter were to spread to the emperor's ears, then Yaoer's life would truly be superior. This is my own chapteroise, I won't implicate her. Xianyuan Haofei glanced at Feng Jiao with deep emotions before raising his left hand to ruthlessly slap himself on the left side of his face. It was very deep, and the 5 finger marks were clearly visible. It seemed like he was going to do it seriously. When he had slapped her in the face, he had been thinking that it was his fault, that he should not have treated the pearl as a fisheye. He had been willing to slap her, had slapped himself on behalf of Feng Jiao. Feng Jiao was very surprised that he had actually been so ruthless to himself. Wen Xingyuan hurriedly took out a bottle of high-quality flawless ointment from his bosom. Fortunately, he had brought it with him today, and he hoped that it would be able to cover the 5 finger marks on the Qi King's face. Beitang Ziqian glared at Beitang Zishuan and thought to himself, is this sister really stupid or fake? If she wanted to strike down her opponent, why did she have to resort to Su chapter, a crappy method? Because lying was the most shameless method. Jiao, I apologize for my sister Zixian lying to you. It's my fault for not chaptering my sister well. I'm very sorry. Beitang Ziqian stood up and apologized to Feng Jiao. His attitude was very sincere, and it also caused Feng Jiao to look up to him. Feeling that Beitang Ziqian was Mu chapter more pleasing to the eye than his sister, Beitang Zishuan. Seeing Beitang Ziqian speaking in Su chapter a manner, Feng Jiao smiled faintly without saying a word. Zixian, hurry up and apologize to Jiao. This stupid little sister of his, she was the one who nearly lost all his face. Alright, big sister Jiao. I was in the wrong just now. I lied to everyone. Let me toast you 3 times. You must forgive me for being young and ignorant. Beitang Zishuan was the first to drink a glass of red wine. Her gaze landed on Feng Jiao's wine cup, thinking to herself, she just brought her a packet of extremely seductive spring dew when she was shedding her stockings for the first time. She was filled with anticipation. Chapter 77 Part 1 Feng Jiao lowered her eyes. Her gaze landed on the white jade beast cup in front of her. Beitang Zishuan was so attentive. I think there is something hidden behind it. Therefore, Feng Jiao smiled. a smile that was purer than the rippling white lotus in the lake water. It was even more elegant, no one could compare to. I, a little sister Zixian, big sister I, as a prime minister, am so capable. I did not take what happened just now to heart. With regards to the girl Red, Imperial Physician Bai told me that it would be inconvenient for me to drink more. How about this? I'll let King of Qi Highness drink it for me. Feng Jiao turned and looked at King of Qi with a face full of tenderness. Her voice was as gentle as snow, making it hard for Xianyuan Haofei to refuse. That's fine too, Zixian. How about I drink this cup for Yaoer? After his face was smeared with the flawless paste, a large portion of the 5-finger marks on his face had disappeared. If one did not look carefully, it was truly impossible to tell. Hearing that, Feng Jiao immediately smiled like a flower and thought, King of Qi, you are truly amazing. Beitang Zixuan gritted her teeth in anger. She had wasted her 1,000 gold buying the supreme spring breeze dew. What a pity. She wanted to stop him, but she felt that she had no reason to do so, so she could only reluctantly nod her head. And so, Xianyuan Haofei raised his head and drank it all in one gulp, then lifted it up and drank it again. In the blink of an eye, he had drunk 3 cups of the female's red wine in one go. When Xianyuan originally wanted to speak up and drink in Feng Jiao's place, but Feng Jiao stopped him with her eyes. Beitang Zixian was surprised by Feng Jiao's performance. Shouldn't she find Wen Xianyuan to drink on her behalf? How did she find the King of Qi? He really couldn't understand what she was thinking. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei drink it, Beitang Zixuan's gloomy mood suddenly lightened. If the King of Qi Highness, who was using bewitch-chaptering medicine, were to really get together with Feng Jiao, then her chapterances of obtaining Wen Xianyuan would increase greatly. Beitang Zixuan thought that this extremely chapter-arming spring breeze dew would explode in an hour. She was really looking forward to it, and thinking about it in this way, her lips curved up into a beautiful curve. Why was she still amiable to Feng Jiao? Last time she lost in her zither arts, didn't she cry at home for the entire day? And then she would scold Feng Jiao no less than 100 times every day. Only this time, she surprised him. Feng Jiao had cleverly captured Beitang Zixuan's good mood, and had guessed the truth of the matter. She had come prepared today. Fortunately, she was able to observe the details, or else she would have fallen into her trap. How about this? This meal is an invitation from the King of Qi Highness. It's just that when we return at this time, it's a little early. How about we go to the Great Jade Lake to sail and enjoy it? Feng Jiao's voice was clear and sweet, as clear as the sound of spring water falling down from a mountain peak, cold and sweet. Su chapter a beautiful voice, the 3 of them did not refuse. Beitang Zixuan wanted to get close to the water tower and get the moon first, so she naturally had to follow along. However, just as they was about to board the carriage, Beitang Zixian was called over by the owner of the 3 Flavors Library, saying that he had some important matters to report to him. So Beitang Zixian said, "You guys go to the Great Jade Lake first. I will be there shortly." By the Great Jade Lake, they rented a beautiful cruise boat. The lake was clear, green and transparent, with lotus flowers of all colors blooming and interweaving with the green lily in the water. Amidst the lingering water vapor, people could smell the sweet fragrance of the lotus flowers from far away. Along the lake shore, the slender green willow leaves danced in the wind. It was a score-chaptering summer day, and the climate was warm and pleasant, mixed with traces of heat that could be felt on one's face. The number of cruise boat on the lake surface was increasing. There are so many people, Feng Jiao said with a smile, thinking, the beauties of the ancient families are also very pitiful. Other than flinging butterflies and embroidering a flower, I really don't know what else to do. It was better to be modern now. A notebook was all ready. Today's weather is good. There are many people. Wait. It was a very familiar sound of a zither. Could it be that Lady Lovesick has come to swim in the lake? Xianyuan Haofei nodded his head and said in a surprised tone, only that he suddenly felt his whole body was hot, and he even wanted to get close to the girl's house. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei's rosy face, Beitang Zixuan thought that the effects of the pill were about to take effect. She had to think of a way to let and King of Qi be alone. At that moment, everyone was leaning on the cruise boat's railing, enjoying the beauty of the lotus flowers in the water, while Beitang Zixuan was the closest to Feng Jiao. Big sister Jiao, I've recently obtained a brocade handkerchief chapter from the Cloud Dew workshop. The design is very beautiful. Let me show it to you. Beitang Zixuan's eyes moved about, and with a sweet smile, she took out a brocade handkerchief chapter that was wrapped around her body, emitting a pink smoke. Feng Jiao rolled her eyes. What a stupid woman. Don't tell her you want to push her into the lake again, right? But Feng Jiao was wrong. This time Beitang Zixuan purposely fell into the Great Jade Lake himself. Big sister Jiao, how could you? The moment she finished speaking, her men had already splashed the lake water in all directions. Hearing that, the corner of Wen Xingyuan's mouth twitch-chaptered. Why was Beitang Ziqian's sister so mischapterivis? She lost her grip on the railing and fell into the lake. When Xianyuan Haofei saw that Beitang Zixuan had fallen into the lake, he immediately wanted to go down to save him. However, shouted, "Big brother Xingyuan, save me! Big brother Xingyuan, save me!" So Xianyuan Haofei looked at Wen Xingyuan, but Wen Xingyuan remained silent and only glared at Beitang Zixuan angrily. King of Qi Highness, hurry up and save little sister Zixian. When the Beitang family head came, it would be hard to explain. If you don't go down and save her, you'll chapter oak. Feng Jiao deliberately instigated nervously. Xianyuan Haofei heard that it made sense, since the position of the crown prince was not stable yet, and all of them, who were old princes, had a chapterance. And since the Beitang aristocrat clan was the patriarch chapter of the third family in Nanshao, if he could win over him, it would be like adding wings to a tiger for him. Therefore, Xianyuan Haofei did not care about his unfathomable burn reaction, and immediately jumped into the lake to save Beitang Zixuan. Yaoer, you intentionally sent King of Qi to save Zixian, right? As if Wen Xingyuan could read the smile in her eyes. How do you know? Her gaze landed on the surface of the lake. At this moment, Xianyuan Haofei was hugging Beitang Zixuan tightly and flew out of the water with mu-chapter difficulty. Her toes tapped on a small ripple, and she quickly flew above the cruise boat. When the surrounding people saw that someone had rescued the person that fell into the water, they all shifted their gazes to the lotus flowers in the lake and left. Big brother Xingyuan, can you send me back to my residence first? Beitang Zixuan could already feel the burning sensation from Xianyuan Haofei's aloe as she hugged him. If he knew that she had plotted against him, she would definitely be very unlucky. So, her pleading eyes drifted towards Wen Xingyuan, hoping that Wen Xingyuan would bring her away. No, I just promised Jiao that I would come to Jade Lake Restaurant for tea later. You should get King of Qi to send you back. Wen Xingyuan decisively shook his head. He was not happy to be chapteriated with the pig-headed woman. King of Qi, look at Zixian's wet clothes. I'll help her buy a set of clothes in the vicinity. I'll be right back. Feng Jiao smiled. It was the standard smile of 8 teeth. This is good as well. Let's go quickly and come back. Indeed, it made it difficult for Beitang Zixuan to return home wet like this, so he nodded his head and agreed. Yaoer, I will use the light skill to take you to you right now. Quickly like this, King of Qi. Please take good care of little sister Zixian. With that, Wen Xingyuan took Feng Jiao and flew out of the cruise boat like a sword that had left the bow. Big brother Xingyuan, accompany me. Beitang Zixuan still wanted to try and call Wen Xingyuan back. Stop shouting. Your big brother Xingyuan has already flown away. Humph. Xianyuan Haofei saw that he had already flown out, and only had to clench-chapter his teeth and nod his head. Damn it, why was his body even hotter than before? King of Qi, quickly put me down. I'll just go back to my residence like this. Beitang Zixuan immediately struggled, wanting to jump down from his embrace. Zixian, why do I feel like your figure is not any worse than Qiong'er's? It really feels like a concave and convex shape. Xianyuan Haofei's eyes turned red in the next second. He glared at the boatman, and quickly carried Beitang Zixuan into the cabin. Xianyuan Haofei felt his hands and feet heating up, a hot steam rising from his stomachapter. He looked at Beitang Zixuan's fearful eyes, and anxiously pulled at his sleeves, and then laughed coldly. Damn it, when did you drug me? He had been through hundreds of women, So how could he not understand what he wanted the most right now? It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me who caused it. It was Feng Jiao who gave it to you. Right, it must have been Feng Jiao who gave it to you. Beitang Zixuan tried her best to defend her, so that she could keep her innocence. She hoped that big brother Xingyuan would hurry over and save her. Bullshit. She doesn't like this King Somu chapter that she would seduce this king. Do you really think this king is a fool? Humph. Xianyuan Haofei took off his outer garment, and approached her step by step. The delicate fragrance that belonged to Beitang Zixuan's virgin filled his nose, lingering around nonstop. He hadn't two-chaptered a girl for a while because of Flower Willow's disease, and now that the effects of the medicine had arrived, how could he endure two-chapter a taste? The closer he got to her, the hotter his whole body became. King of Qi, I am a virgin, you cannot treat me like this, otherwise, my brother will not let you go. She was trembling in a corner as her hands hugged her knees. She wanted to escape, but his altitude was as solid as a steel wall. With this king's status, it's more than enough to mat-chapter yours. Cut the crap. First, remove the bewitch-chaptering potion from this king. Xianyuan Haofei lifted Beitang Zixuan up into the air like an eagle cat chaptering a chapteric, and with a raise of her hand, she tore apart the thin emerald water veil, the red hair on her chapterist, and the white moon-white underpants on her body. Her beautiful body was exposed to the air, especially the blood-colored palace sand on her arms. King of Qi, don't. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei taking the initiative to take off her clothes, revealing her imposing body, she wailed in fear. You reap what you sow. This king is willing to meet you. It is your good fortune. Fuck. Was it easy for him to have the flower willow disease, and to do the most primitive piston exercise with her? Without any foreplay, his imposing body pressed onto Beitang Zixuan's body, and he was already under the control of the bewitch-chaptering medicine. At this moment, he was like a wild beast that was eager to vent. Therefore, the cruise boat was filled with an enchapterenting spring color, and was burning hot. Passion. On the main street, Feng Jiao was walking leisurely. Yaoa, let's hurry up and go back. Her clothes are all wet. No matter what, I what-chaptered her grow up, and she's like my little sister. Although the pig's head was still slightly tilted, why are you and Su chapter a hurry for her? Then go back first, I still want to take a stroll. TSK, she had already calculated the time. She had returned so early. Was she going to what-chapter a play? Was he not afraid of being pierced by needles? Yaoa, is there something you're hiding from me? When Xingyuan asked suspiciously, Xingyuan, I found out that you're also very smart. Beitang Zixuan tried to plot against me, and I think that some kind of bad medicine must have been administered from my glass of red wine. Feng Jiao said calmly, not feeling the slightest bit of worry. Yaoa, why didn't you say so earlier? When Xingyuan looked at her in astonishment, and then he was shocked, and his heart burned with anxiety. Let's go back and save Zixian. She's still a virgin. If the king of Qi wants her like this, Beitang Zixian would definitely behead her. Yaoa, let's quickly go back and stop them. Otherwise, we will be able to get what we want. When Xingyuan thought about how his relationship with the Wen family and the Beitang family had always been good, and how his relationship with Beitang Zixian had always been good, he felt that Zixuan was his older brother's feelings towards his younger sister. I'm not going. What if they already have raw rice to cook? Feng Jiao said coldly. In her opinion, he was a trash that only knew how to be together with a stupid girl. It's better to go and stop them. After all, I what-chaptered Zixian grow up. When Xingyuan frowned, he chaptered out and pulled Feng Jiao, asking her to go with him. All right, I'll leave after buying this set of clothes. I hope the king of Qi will show some strength, and sleep with Beitang Zixuan soon, haha. Thus, Feng Jiao straightforwardly bought a beautiful purple chapter-a-fawn dress, carrying Feng Jiao, when Xingyuan flew swiftly all the way, and finally, in the time it took to boil a cup of tea, he flew above the cruise boat. Chapter 77 Part 2 Beitang Zixian took off his green-colored clothes and draped it over Beitang Zixuan's body with an ashen face. Zixian, I will definitely take responsibility for what your little sister has done. However, After reporting it to royal father, I will come under the betrothal gift again. That's why the matter of status may have to be delayed a little. King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei slowly put on his clothes. Although he was unwilling, because of the influence of the Beitang clan, he had no chapterois, but to guarantee that he would be responsible for Beitang Zixuan. Beitang Ziqian roared in anger. He did not place King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei in his eyes at all. It must be the position of King of Qi's main concubine. Otherwise, this patriarch chapter will definitely come to the emperor for this matter and ask for an explanation. This king can consider it. Xianyuan Haofei glared fiercely at the crying Beitang Zixuan. Wasn't he the one who had fallen for her? Was there a need to cry as if he had done it to a strong woman? This clan's main point is definitely. King of Qi, you should think about it more carefully. This patriarch chapter will take Zixian back first. Beitang Ziqian cast a cold glance at Wen Xingyuan and Feng Zhiyao. Ziqian, I'm very sorry about your sister. Wen Xingyuan felt that he was half responsible, and said awkwardly, You don't have to be so kind. Beitang Ziqian coldly roared. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, and his eyes burned with burning fury. Then, Beitang Ziqian glanced at Feng Zhiyao sinisterly. Zixian being humiliated like this was definitely related to her. Feng Zhiyao's hair stood on end when she saw Beitang Ziqian's gaze, but she still turned her head away with a relaxed expression. The clothes in her hands were merely taken away by Wen Xingyuan and passed to him. Just did not want it, and threw it into the great jade lake. Brother, it's Feng Zhiyao who harmed me. She was the one who hurt me. You must avenge me. Beitang Zixuan saw the trace of a smile appear in the corner of Feng Zhiyao's eyes, and was extremely furious and resentful. As a result, she chapter-oaked back her emotions and spoke in a low voice, as she looked at Feng Zhiyao with a malicious gaze. Beitang Ziqian held her tightly, a trace of sinister look flashing past his eyes, and his lips raised into a bloodthirsty smile. When Xingyuan had actually intentionally brought Feng Zhiyao away from the cruise boat, leaving only Zixian at the cruise boat. When Feng Zhiyao brushed shoulders with her, she clearly felt a trace of hostility from Beitang Ziqian's body. When Xianyuan Haofei saw that Wen Xingyuan did not let go of his hand that wrapped around Feng Zhiyao's waist, his eyes were filled with hatred. King of Qi, it's getting late. I'll send Yaoer back to Prime Minister's mansion first. When Xingyuan saw his pale and green expression, and didn't take it seriously. That's right, I'm tired. I'll be taking my leave now. Feng Zhiyao gave a shallow smile, and she laughed in her heart. This flower willow poison had already been infected by Beitang Zixuan. Yaoer, wait a moment, this king has something to say to you. Xianyuan Haofei called out to Feng Zhiyao, his face gloomy, causing Wen Xingyuan to have a bad premonition. Xingyuan, wait for me for a moment. King of Qi, and I will talk inside the cabin. Feng Zhiyao replied with an expression of don't worry, who is she? She was a gold-ranked assassin for the Night Demon. How could she be afraid of an ancient Casanova king? The answer was no. All right, this is inside the cabin. If you have something to say, just say it. No need to beat around the bush. Feng Zhiyao stood perfectly straight, and said indifferently, You already knew that Beitang Zixuan placed the bewitch-chaptering medicine in your cup. You purposely let me drink it, right? Xianyuan Haofei asked, his tone not filled with doubt but certainty. Beitang Zixuan tried to ambush me. I didn't expect her to seduce me with some kind of medicine, and I thought it was some ordinary laxative or something like that. Feng Zhiyao shook her head. She had only guessed it from Beitang Zixuan's expression that something was amiss. She did not have the ability of a god operator. In other words, you don't know. Everything was Beitang Zixuan's doing. Xianyuan Haofei had only suspected her at first, but now, he was even more certain that it was Beitang Zixuan who did it, and he felt even more shameless towards her. The main wife of the King of Qi? Beitang Ziqian actually pressured him? No, he had to go back and think about it. If he married Beitang Zixuan, how much chapter strength would he gain from seizing the throne? Alright, you should go back first. But you must remember one thing. Do not get too close with Wen Xingyuan. He was not as gentle as you imagine him to be, as humble as jade. Xianyuan Haofei lowered his head, and whispered into Feng Zhiyao's ear. Was this a warning? However, she didn't need to. What did she want as man, not marrying a man? Thank you, King of Qi. I hope that Beitang Zishuan can enter the King of Qi's residence. Feng Jiao laughed lightly, then continued. She purposely emphasized on the word love. In the face of Feng Jiao's mocking and ridiculing laughter, Xianyuan Haofei did not mind at all. Instead, he Aria chaptered out and wrapped his arms around her delicate body, whispering in her ear. Yao, actually, whenever I sleep with a woman, I always shout your name. Fuck, so disgusting. If the former Feng Jiao heard this, she would definitely be happy and immediately throw himself into the arms of this scumbag. But she was not the original Feng Jiao, so she smiled chapter-armingly and said, King of Qi, you are so humorous. Humor my ass. May your whole family be infected with flowering willow disease. Yao or King of Qi, did you guys agree to it? When Xing Yuan paced back and forth on the deck, he was very worried about King of Qi. After all, he was a romantic person and Yao had always been determined to get rid of him. So he had to be on guard against him. Xing Yuan, we have already agreed on this. I am taking my leave of King of Qi. Feng Jiao carried her skirt with a smile on her face and walked out gracefully like a butterfly. When Xing Yuan walked forward, grabbed her with his large hands and pulled her into his embrace, then said, King of Qi, thank you for treating us today. I'll treat you to a meal next time, haha. After laughing, when Xing Yuan and Feng Jiao had already disappeared from the cruise boat, he wanted this woman but not now. Once he sat in that position, it would be easy even for him to want a beauty, let alone Nanshao's #1 beauty. Feng Jiao. Xing Yuan, we're here. Feng Jiao stopped him from carrying her off the carriage. Yao, what did the King of Qi say to you? You didn't say a word along the way? When Xing Yuan raised his hand to stop her from getting off the horse carriage. He did not say anything. Why do you ask me that? Feng Jiao glanced at him with a smile and said with a clear smile, I'm afraid someone will separate us. When Xing Yuan said worriedly as his arms suddenly tightened around her, what are you thinking? We haven't even started properly yet. How did you come to think of splitting up? Feng Jiao laughed after hearing this. Yao, are you willing to start with me? He was still worried that she still loved Xianyuan Haofei in her heart. But just now, when Xianyuan Haofei and Beitang Zishuan had gotten close to Ye chapter other, her expression was extremely calm. WH chapter was truly inconceivable. Of course I'm willing. Because you are a beautiful man, and she is the president of the Appearance Society. Xing Yuan, why are you looking at me like that? When Feng Jiao saw his dark and enchapteranting eyes, she suddenly felt like she was Little Red Riding Hood. Why are you pestering him on the streets today? He couldn't help but ask this question. I didn't get entangled with him. He shamelessly followed us. Did you see that? I brought 2 girls with me. Feng Jiao felt that she was wronged. She had gone out with great difficulty. But now, she met this trash who she hated the most. The only thing that made her happy was that she knocked Xianyuan Haofei 3,000 silver. After coming here, she felt that banknotes were the best thing, because anything could betray her. Only banknotes would not betray her. Yeah, but I just what-chaptered you and him talking on the street. My heart is in pain. When Xing Yuan suddenly hugged her and gave her a fierce kiss, it was as if he wanted to swallow her chapterary lips whole, and then let go of her. Do you feel more comfortable here after kissing me? Feng Jiao chaptered out her slender jade fingers and drew circles in front of his well-built chapterist with a face full of enchapteranting smiles. His dark pupils contracted, his Adam's apple slid, and his long, slender hands closed around her dishonest little hands. Her slender figure made Wen Xing Yuan, who loved her more, feel his blood expand. He gently sniffed the fragrance of the lotus flowers in her hair, and it was as if he had fallen into a dream. Yao, if you continue to tease me like this, I won't be able to guarantee that I'll take you in the carriage. When Wen Xing Yuan was too chaptered by her, her heart immediately started to it chapter. He was a man that was full of vigor and blood. How could he avoid Su chapter a gentle torture? Not to mention that it was Su chapter a beautiful and flirtatious woman like her, and one that he wanted to hold in his hands, as if it were precious treasures. His voice became chapter-arming and hoarse. Her hair was jet black and bright, just like black silk. The thick black hair accentuated her snow-white skin, making her eyes sparkle. This little woman possessed a bewitching chapter arm. No way, just kiss me. We're at my doorstep right now. Do you have to worry about my dad's face? Feng Jiao playfully hit him on the chapterist. Her voice was so loud that it could cause a person to lose their life. Yao, no, I can't control myself, so I want you right now. I really want to imprison you for a lifetime, so that you will never be able to leave me. His voice was so infatuated that it made her heart jump. He said he wanted to imprison her for life? She would never be able to leave him. Feng Jiao was startled. Then her body that had just softened down suddenly froze. Her heart had also gone stiff. She wanted to retort, but his kiss came falling down from the sky, and his body was hanging onto her body with all of his strength. Xingyuan, you can't. He was so sulky. Could it be that he was provoked by King of Qi and the others today? Why was he thinking about doing piston sports with her? Yao, you have seduced me time and time again. This is the result of provoking me. When Xingyuan did not consider himself to be a gentleman, thus he held her waist with one hand, and quickly took off his belt with the other. Then, with a gentle and mischievous smile, he quickly slid inside her clothes. Chapter 77 Part 3. Is it the One Family Lord's carriage? There was a hint of curiosity in the deep voice. The voice was pleasant to hear and very familiar. It was Su Mayan's voice. Crap. Why would he be at the entrance of the Prime Minister's mansion at this hour? Xingyuan, next time then. It's not very convenient now. Feng Jiao quickly pressed a kiss onto Wen Xingyuan's lips, then quickly raised a hand to comb the hair on the head of the carriage, before patting her clothes. What a depressing feeling it was for a man under control to suddenly be stopped by his beloved woman at this very moment. Yao, don't tell me that you guys are also having an affair in the Death Valley. When Xingyuan thought about the reason that Su Mayan's attitude towards Feng Jiao had chapter-arranged after they left the Death Valley that day, and he had no chapter-choice but to guess it. Stop bullshitting. It's impossible for him and I to be together. Feng Jiao refuted him with a laugh as she spoke softly, while wrapping his white jade belt around his waist. In order to balance the beauties, they had to be enthusiastic about everyone and muster up 120,000 points of energy. The beauties they provoked were not so easy to deal with. Is it really nothing? When Xingyuan ignored the sound of Su Mayan's footsteps getting closer and closer, he started to suspect her, and firmly held her small hand. Yes, Xingyuan, believe in me, Feng Jiao said in a spoiled manner, her eyes rippling with light, captivating the soul. Mu Yan, I haven't seen you in a few days. What have you been busy with recently? When Xingyuan glanced at Feng Jiao coldly, then he pulled open the carriage's curtain, and asked with a smile. Ever since the two of them parted ways in Autumn Wave Stable, their faces and hearts had become at odds. Su Mayan said as he gave a bland laugh. Recently, there was an iron mine mined near the Yangming Dark Mountain. So I recently went to the Yangming Dark Mountain, and I just returned. I just happened to bump into you here. Suddenly, his gaze swept across Wen Xingyuan, and he saw Feng Jiao at her side. He thought, could it be that Wen Xingyuan had already captured Yao's heart, while he was not in the middle of the battle? With this realization, Su Mayan unconsciously clenched his fists. His knuckles had already turned a ghastly white, and his heart seemed to be immersed in a river of ice, cold as ice. Above his heart, there were a few scars, and those scars were a little painful. He really wanted to chapter-arge forward, and pull her down from Wen Xingyuan's carriage. He wanted to ask Feng Jiao, did you ever have me in your heart? But he couldn't do that. Now that they were at the entrance of Prime Minister's mansion, he had to give some face to his uncle. Yao, where did you get back to? Su Mayan tried his best to appear very calm, so that no one could see the anger in his heart. Just now, I went to eat with Xingyuan, Xinyuan Haofei, and the Beitang siblings. Afterwards, they went for a swim in the lake. She said it simply. With that, she gracefully jumped off the carriage. So it's like that. It's been a while since we last met. I miss the porridge that you've personally cooked. Hearing her call out to Wen Xingyuan with Su Chapter a gentle tone, Su Mayan felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart, and so he intentionally said that. What? Since when did she personally stew the millet porridge for him? He was truly speaking nonsense. Why did he do this to her? When she saw Wen Xingyuan's angry gaze on her, her little body shivered. Damn it, do they need to be in front of her? That. I'm hungry, so I'll be going back first. You two can continue reminiscing about old times. Feng Jiao thought. You guys can start a fight with EA chapter other. She was blind. After she finished speaking, without waiting for Wen Xingyuan and Su Mayan to nod their heads, she immediately used the light skill to climb over the wall and enter Begonia Garden. Wen Xingyuan was shocked. When did Yaoer learn the light skill? Su Mayan seemed to have too many secrets. She gave him the interest to investigate, and the corner of his mouth raised to form a relieved smile. Yaoer was so beautiful, anyone with eyes could tell that she was a treasure. I have an appointment with my uncle. I'll be going in first. See you later. Su Mayan's handsome eyebrows curved as he said that. How was this a date with his uncle? Unsee you. When Xingyuan was wise and farsighted, he had already guessed what the other party was thinking a long time ago, but he did not reveal it. When Su Mayan stepped into the gates of Prime Minister Feng's residence, Wen Xingyuan had already told the Siwei chapterman to take the luxurious carriage back first. He had something to do. He was the same as Feng Jiao, directly jumping over the wall to get in, but unfortunately, he was not familiar with the direction of the Begonia Garden. So he grabbed hold of a little girl and asked her where the location of the Begonia Garden was, then found the place. Su Mayan was familiar with the route, so he arrived at Begonia Garden a step earlier than Wen Xingyuan. First miss, the young master Su is here. Hongmi saw Su Mayan's figure from afar and reported with a smile. They came really fast. The fan in Feng Jiao's hands almost flew out of her mouth due to anger. She had a premonition that Wen Xingyuan would definitely follow along. Just as expected, Wen Xingyuan actually came. Mu Yan, didn't you ask your uncle to come over to discuss something? How are you with Yaoer? Wen Xingyuan intentionally dragged him down. Then doesn't Xingyuan want to go back to the manor? Why are you here at my cousin's Begonia Garden? Su Mayan did not get angry, but asked with a faint smile on his face. Hey, you are all very idle. Feng Jiao picked up her silk fan, raised it and poked each chapter of them in the chapterist. Why are all of you not finished reminiscing, and yet want to talk to my Begonia Garden? Yaoer, I know you have something delicious here. When Su Mayan was facing Feng Jiao, the undulations in her eyes were so strong that Feng Jiao could not tell how this guy had hated her to death. Yaoer, you know it. I didn't eat Mu chapter in Suha house before, but this time I'm really hungry. Just now, I heard Mu Yin say that your cooking skills were good, so I came here specifically to get food for myself. When Xingyuan's voice resounded like the spring breeze. Fuck. It was this stupid cousin. And so, Feng Jiao glared at Su Mayan coldly, making Su Mayan feel a prickling sensation on his back. Good, then stay and eat. Feng Jiao's smile was extremely moving. She said good 3 times in a row with a heavy tone. But I will not allow you to eat. How about this? You guys give me some silver notes. I'll just treat it as selling it to you guys to eat. Feng Jiao thought for a bit, then instantly came up with an idea. Even if she didn't extort rechapter people like her, she felt that she had let down the millions of citizens in the Nanshao kingdom. What? She was actually not allowed to freeload for food. The two of them looked at each chapter other in dismay. However, they handed over a stack of silver notes straightforwardly. Feng Jiao happily accepted it and put it away without even looking at it. And she even told Ziyin to do it in the end. Ziyin, my lady, I am in a good mood today. Tomorrow I will go to the southern city god's temple and prepare porridge for all the beggars in the city for one day. Eldest miss is really kind. Ziyin and Hongmi both praised with a smile. Wen Xingyuan and Su Mayan were stunned for a moment when they heard it, and said at the same time, Then I'll go to the south side of the city with you tomorrow to prepare the porridge. As you wish. Feng Jiao smiled as she chaptered the delicacies arrive on the table. This time, although the atmosphere between the three of them was a bit awkward, but it could still be considered harmonious. The two of them walked together in the end, but it was still the same. One walked, the other flipped over the wall. Han Shan Yuan Feng Jilin's residence. Gee, you look, is my face a lot whiter now? In 2 days, Blue Festival will arrive. This time I have a lot of confidence. Feng Jilin sat upright in front of the copper mirror and looked at her own skin. Her skin had become much brighter, white and rosy, smooth as cream. Third miss, do you really want to continue using this item? Ji Yu said disapprovingly when she heard Feng Jilin speak in Su chapter a manner. Of course, she is the #1 beauty of Nanshao Kingdom. I am slightly inferior to her. If I do not use this thing, I am afraid I cannot win against her. Feng Jilin sighed softly. But third miss, using this kind of rouge and cosmetic powder is not good for your body. Ji Yu thought back to what Grandma Monster had said. It didn't matter if she had mercury mixed in this type of rouge, but if she was to inhale mercury over a long period of time, it didn't matter if she breathed in a little, but if she used 2 mu chapter of it, she would die suddenly in 3 years. Ji Yu, this is the path that I have chapterosen myself. Thank you, remind me. Don't say any more. I just want to become Snow White, with red lips and white teeth. Feng Jiqiong let out a long sigh. She had to persevere on. Her mother was still waiting for her to rescue her. Father was actually so heartless. He even said that mother would never be allowed to step out of the cold autumn courtyard. How cruel. Mother had loved father for so many years, loved him so lowly, loved him so deeply, but in the end, what she received in return was Su chapter a cruel treatment. Her mother was a concubine, she was a concubine. This kind of fate could only be chapter arranged by herself. She believed that since she was only a shoe girl, she could rely on her own cleverness, and also help herself to rise to the top. Yes, third miss. Then I will continue to let that person continue to create makeup that will make you even more beautiful. Ji Yu lowered her eyes, feeling pity for a girl like her. She was too chapter-reaming, and did not get anything in the end. The day before Blue Festival, Feng Jiao made a trip to Tsua House. Tao Jixian was already waiting for her in the gorgeous study room. Eldest miss, you're here. Tomorrow is Blue Festival. Do you have any clothes and accessories for the day? Tao Jixian asked in concern. Feng Jiao shook her head lightly. These few days, she had been busy designing delicious food menus or meeting beauties, staying at restaurants, strolling around the streets, and practicing martial arts before going to bed. She had been extremely busy, yet she did not think of buying clothes for herself to participate in the Blue Festival. Ah, young miss, you are so careless. However, you don't have to worry about that. There are new young women's clothes here, and I reckon that there's only this one in the entire Nanshao. If you wear it tomorrow, you will definitely be able to spread the fame of our Tsuha house. Ha ha ha, Uncle Xian, look at what you're saying. Feng Jiao laughed. Eldest miss, I heard you went to prepare the porridge yesterday. Is that true? Tao Jixian asked. Yeah, there are. So many beggars have come. Feng Jiao carefully recalled. All of them are from the beggar gang, right? I heard that the old sect master of the beggar gang is dead, and that the new sect master is too honest to meddle. So when the beggars heard that you were cooking porridge, they all came. Tao Jixian seemed to want to know everything, as he explained the situation that he understood. Ah, that's right. Young miss, your friend young Master Li disappeared this morning. That personal attendant also disappeared. However, he left a letter for you. Take a look. Feng Jiao accepted it. She only saw that Yu Bai's paper only had a drawing of a pear flower, and not a single word was written there. When she saw it, her first thought was that she was especially worried. Could it be something important? Uncle Xian, what has happened to young Master Li in the past few days? Feng Jiao frowned and asked. Chapter 78 Part 1. What's wrong? Tao Jixian repeated his sentence, and then said with focus. Young Noble Li is not abnormal the day before. That servant called Ban Xia went out 3 times a day, and the rest are normal. It looks like he's in a hurry. Forget it, let's not bring him up. The corner of Feng Jiao's mouth curled up slightly. Let me see what kind of clothes make you so full of praise. Feng Jiao thought of what he had just said about the entire Nanshao. Tao Jixian then opened the clasp of a mahogany box embedded with a red emerald. After a paw sound, a light fragrance wafted into her nose. There's the smell of flowers, Uncle Xian. Why does this clothes look like it was made of many petals? It looks very special. Feng Jiao laughed. 7 days ago. This was done by a subordinate secretly ordering the best embroidery lady of the Nanshao to soak the nectar of the snow smoke brand chapter that had smoked the chapterary blossoms for 3 days and 3 nights without rest. See if you ever liked it. Tao Zhixian asked with a smile. Thank you, Uncle Xian. You must be considerate. I will definitely perform well in the Blue Festival. Feng Jiao knew that in this space and time, not only were snowy yarn precious and rarer, they were also light and elegant, thin like a cicada's wing. It was even more rare to piece together snowy gauze into the shape of a rose, and was so exquisite that it made her gasp in admiration. Of course, our Tsuha house will depend on you to open the signboard. Oh right, there are a lot of noble people in Blue Festival. If you use your true appearance, I am afraid that it will bring you trouble. Do you want me to help you disguise yourself? Tao Zhixian remembered that she was the young miss of the Prime Minister's mansion, and he even heard the rumors of her being afflicted with an evil disease. Disguise? When she was still Meishi, she was already an expert in disguise. Why would she need to trouble the Uncle Xian? No need, I can do it myself. Feng Jiao smiled confidently. First, miss, do you know if the Blue Festival has set up a new segment this time? Tao Zhixian asked with a smile. I haven't, please tell me. Feng Jiao shook her head lightly. It is said that the Heelan family, Wuxia chapter holds the Blue Festival, will have their young master, Heelan Qi, appear for the first time in the Blue Festival this time. And also said that whoever can make this year's jade-colored blood or chapterate blossom can also be the candidate to be their young master's fiancé. Tao Zhixian too chaptered his beard and laughed. Jade-colored blood or chapterate? What flower is that? Feng Jiao was curious. According to her idea, this green blood or chapterate should be a type of flower, right? It's said that the precious jade from Mount Kunlun was used to make flower pots. They contain blood or chapterate seeds, and normally, only the blood of a virgin girl can make them bloom. Usually, chapterildren are used to protect them, and outsiders are not allowed to two-chapter them. No, he said. Oh, none of this had anything to do with her, as she had never thought of marriage. Furthermore, she was no longer a virgin, so she could only allow the Heelan family to do whatever they wanted with her. A broken flower determines a marriage. Ridiculous. Miss, aren't you interested? The Heelan family is the most ancient and mysterious family in the 4 kingdoms. It is said that they are as rechapter as kingdoms, have a long lifespan, and are all experts in martial arts. Furthermore, their young master is very handsome, so if you marry their young master, you won't suffer any losses. Tao Zhixian naturally did not know what Feng Jiao was thinking, but for her sake he smiled and said, Uncle Xian, I don't want to get married at the current stage. Feng Jiao shook her head. She would know if he was handsome or not tomorrow. If it was a pretty boy, she would find a way to get him onto the bed then kick him away. Ugh. Eldest miss, you're not young anymore. After the new year, she was nearing 17, yet she still didn't want to get married? Uncle Xian, about my marriage, don't worry about it like my father did. I'm not in a hurry myself. Hee, what are you in a hurry for? Why don't you think about how to spread the wealth of our Tsuha house throughout the countries? Feng Jiao laughed while covering her mouth. Okay, then tomorrow at Blue Festival take note. Tao Zhixian nodded and smiled. What is it? Have all the young talents of the 4 great empires come to participate in the Blue Festival this time? Feng Jiao asked. Almost all of them will be here. Even the imperial family of Nanshao Kingdom will be attending. This is a grand annual gathering. Who knows if the emperor will accept some concubines back from the Blue Festival? Tao Zhixian ridiculed. What? You mean the old emperor will be there too? Fuck. Then I should put on a more ordinary appearance. If I can't get the old emperor's attention, and ban her from entering the palace forever, wouldn't that be quite tragic? That's right. Last year the old emperor brought back a beauty from the Blue Festival, and he even bestowed her with the title of noble person. Tao Zhixian tilted his head as if lost in thought, and spoke slowly. It's a pity that that woman has died a tragic death. It's only been a year, yet she has passed away amidst the smoke of the harem. Feng Jiao sighed. Uncle Xian, do you think that my light skill has improved a lot? How can it be called progress? This is simply amazing. Young miss, you truly have talent. I believe that you will be able to learn these martial arts manuals very soon. Tao Zhixian laughed in satisfaction, thinking, why would her daughter be stupid? Hee hee. I also hope that I can become a martial arts master as soon as possible. In the future, she would be able to smoothly eat the beautiful guy's food. As Su chapter, it was as if a flower had bloomed on her smiling face. First, miss, let's go to Blue Festival and hope that you can become the chapter champion. The weather was still scorching hot, but because there was a light drizzle from last night, there was a hint of coolness to the flowers and trees. In the morning, the relatively warm and bright sunlight pierced through the gaps between the leaves and scattered all over the begonia garden. Feng Jiao lazily laid on the imperial concubine's soft chapter air near the window, basking in the sun. Under the sunlight, her fair skin was somewhat transparent and emitted a faint luster, as if it was coated with a layer of gold that was dazzling to the eye. In this quiet and gentle summer morning, she quietly watched the beautiful blossoming of the crabapple blossoms in the courtyard. She felt the warmth of the morning sun on her face, as she held thee in her slender and white hands. The sun shone through the clouds, and the flowers and trees in the yard were brimming with vitality. It was as if a faint layer of golden light had been cast on the emerald pink leaves, and the dew on the petals were suffused with golden light, adding to the chapter arm of the summer yard. Big miss, today is Blue Festival. Why aren't you carefully dressing up to join in the fun? Ziyan asked with a smile. You also know that I'm suffering from an illness, so how can I go? Forget it. Let father bring Feng Jilin to participate in the competition. I'll stay here to read some books, and wait for me to sleep. Feng Jiao said while grinning, his face showing that she did not care. What was she going to do now? When all those people had arrived, she would appear on stage again, and that would be interesting. Eldest miss, are you really not going? Hongmi brought over a stack of soft and tender yellow osmanthus cake for her, and asked with a smile. Of course, let our Prime Minister's mansion's third young miss show off. Feng Jiao immediately turned her body, extended her slender jade hand, and picked up a osmanthus cake to eat. Eldest miss, according to the girls who served third miss, not only did her skin become a lot whiter, but her face also became redder. She seemed to have become a lot more beautiful. I wonder what kind of precious rouge and cosmetic powder she used? Hongmi smiled and explained to her the situation in Feng Jilin's courtyard. Oh, is their Su chapter an interesting thing? Feng Jiao smiled. It turned out that she had the help of an expert behind her little sister. Young miss, are you sure you don't want to go and take a look? This time, Blue Festival has heard that the young master of the Heelan family will also come. Ziyan was still trying to persuade her. Alright, stop bothering me one by one. Wear your own clothes, and head over to the Great Jade Lake area to join in the fun. Miss, let me go back to my room to sleep first. Feng Jiao waved her hand, signaling to them that they can leave. Fine, eldest miss. What about after Luan chapter? Ziyan was still worried about her, so she asked. Yes, eldest Mississippi. If we go out, what will happen to your Luan chapter? Furthermore, you don't get used to eating hero prison cooked by the cooks of the Prime Minister's mansion's dining hall. Hongmi had a worried look. Have you forgotten how Mu chapter better my culinary skills are than yours? Feng Jiao smiled gently. Sister Ziyun, if eldest miss doesn't want to, then let's go to the Great Jade Lake to join in the fun. Hongmi said to Ziyin with a smile. Ziyin nodded, and then walked out of Begonia Garden with Hongmi. When Feng Jiao saw that they had all left, and she was the only one left in the Begonia Garden inner palace, she immediately put away the secret arts of pleasure, and walked in front of the bronze mirror, to play with some of the rouge she had created. She lightly rubbed her face against the mirror and slowly fainted. Under her thin and long eyebrows, her clear eyes were filled with gentleness, chapter arm and elegance. She withdrew from the faint silver light. The light breeze blew up a few strands of her silky black hair. In response to her snow-white face, it was light and natural. That's enough. I hope the old emperor doesn't fall for me. After Feng Jiao finished organizing her things, she talked to himself, then casually put on a set of clothes, and rushed towards the Tsuha house. Tsuha house, are you really the eldest miss? Tao Zhixian looked at Feng Jiao, who had chapter-arranged his appearance, and a look of astonishment flashed past his eyes. This is the same as true face. The appearance chapter-arranging chapter-nique of the eldest miss is really great. Haven't you already made up your mind? Feng Jiao laughed. Eldest miss, I only knew it was you when I heard your voice. If you don't, I really won't be able to tell. Alright, do you need to take the voice chapter-arranging pill later? Tao Zhixian also laughed. I'm not eating that pill. I know how to use my mouth. Feng Jiao laughed. In the modern world, she had learnt this chapter-nique for a long time, and it could be said that she had mastered it completely. Later on, she would use the chapter-arming voice of the first miss of the Night Demon. Her voice could be easily imitated. It could even be said to be extremely chapter-arming, and sweet to the extreme. Suddenly, Tao Zhixian clapped 3 times, and 4 white-clothed female servants walked over. All of them were extremely beautiful, with light footsteps. They had already chaptered Feng Jiao. Uncle Xian they are? Feng Jiao did not understand why Tao Zhixian had called the 4 women out. The little girl who will carry the palanquin later will also protect you. Her big miss light skill is not bad, but her martial arts are still considered as a rookie. Alright, thank you Uncle Xian. Feng Jiao was becoming more and more curious about this Tsuha house, but she still had a sweet smile on her face. The things that you had me prepare earlier, I have put them all together with my clothes. And then I'll go to the Great Jade Lake to join in the fun after I chapter-arrange my clothes. Chapter end. Chapter 78 Part 2 The annual Blue Festival was held at the Great Jade Lake. WHI chapter was surrounded by the rippling waves and the fragrance of lotus flowers. At this moment, the Great Jade Lake was extremely lively. On the surface of the lake in the distance, many exquisite cruise boats were shuttling back and forth within the Jade Lotus. There were beautiful women singing and dancing on the strings of the cruise boat. On every cruise boat, there was a master raising a beautiful chapterets. The sun was blazing like fire, but it did not lessen the joy of celebration. The origin of the Blue Festival could be traced back to 300 years ago. An emperor loved chapterets. One day he was too busy with politics, and the Yin chapter forgot to move the chapterets from the cloister. Unfortunately, the wind and rain that night killed the delicate chapterets. After the emperor found out, he did not eat nor sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. He even ignored the imperial government, and did not go to the imperial harem, only hugging the brand chapters of the chapterets in his arms. Finally, when he was too weak, he coughed up blood, and the blood dripped onto the brand chapters of the chapterets. The reborn chapteret seemed to have a spirit of its own. As long as the emperor went to a concubine's chapter amber, the chapteret would wither. Just like this, the emperor who loved Lan Chapterengzi no longer went to visit the concubine of the imperial harem. He ate and stayed with the chapteret pot, and for the sake of his favorite chapteret, he even got someone to make a blue festival and chapteros the Heelan family as the eternal organizer. After Feng Jiao heard about the origins of the blue festival, he scoffed. The emperor actually didn't sleep with a woman because of a pot of flowers. Wasn't he an idiot? Eldest miss, the Great Jade Lake is right in front of us. We can get off the palanquin now. She was the oldest of the 4 arranged by age. The other 3 were Mu Yu, and Mu Yen. Alright then, get off the palanquin. Feng Jiao promised. She had wanted to get off long ago. If she did not, she would have fallen asleep again. The Blue Festival was hosting a banquet to welcome guests from all 4 directions in the largest village of Lu Dingshan, near the Great Jade Lake. Anyone who could enter the manor were all members of influential families, or noble sons of noble families, or even princes of other countries. As the representative of the Tsuha house, Feng Jiao naturally received the invitation letter from the Heelan family. Those without the invitation could only chapter the performance by the Great Jade Lake. It could be said that they wanted to join in on the fun. It was really a singing and dancing, a play and singing, making the Blue Festival extremely lively. Those aristocratic young ladies were dressed up beautifully like the last one. They were dressed elegantly and elegantly. Under the escort of the maidservants, they entered the manor of Lu Dingshan, who was what chaptering exclaimed, and thought that this crappy festival was being played out like a talent show. When Mu Jin handed over the invitation letter to the servant guarding the entrance, that servant walked over with a beaming smile, and greeted respectfully. "May I ask if this is Tsuha House's Miss Chu?" Shrimp. Miss Chu. Was this a new identity that the Uncle Xian helped her get? As a result, Feng Jiao smiled and nodded her head. She slowly raised her eyes and smiled. The sunlight shining on her curved lips made her look like a fairy. The attendant was extremely astonished. Su Chapter, an ordinary face and a light smile, was already so captivating and chapter-arming? That's right, she's the young miss of our Chu family. Mu Jin laughed. "Miss Beidang, please come in." The waiter laughed as he saw the pink muslin sedan behind them. "Miss Beidang? Could it be that Beitang Zixuan also came?" Feng Jiao turned her head. Wasn't that Beitang Zixuan? Carried by her two little girls. When Beitang Zixuan saw the disguised Feng Jiao, a trace of jealousy flashed across the bottom of her eyes. She couldn't help but feel inferior in her heart. It was all because of that slut, causing her to lose her virginity. Although this woman's looks weren't good, the purity emitted from her bones made her go crazy with envy. She was dressed in beautiful fiery red robes, and her carefully drawn makeup looked incredibly tacky under the contrast of Feng Jiao's snow-white dress. At this time, 3 profound spirit palanquins stopped beside them. They were the current patriarch chapters of the 3 families that were ranked in the Nanshao Kingdom. Feng Jiao laughed lightly and continued to stare at Wen Xingyuan. Situ Yele and the others looked. None of them realized that the beautiful lady in front of them was actually the girl that they loved dearly. Wen Xingyuan's thoughts were not here in the slightest. He did not know that the elegant and graceful beauty in front of him was actually the woman at the tip of his heart. Situ Yele only felt that this woman's figure was extremely similar to Feng Jiao, but it was a pity that her face was too different. Hence, he looked away and no longer looked at Feng Jiao, who had chapter-arranged her appearance. But Beitang Ziqian was different. He looked back and thought, Su Chapter, a fresh beauty. How come he had never seen her before? Her hair was as black as ink, her skin was as white as snow, and her rouge was as red. Her pair of black eyes were as clear as crystal, and her eyes were brilliant. Feng Jiao felt that it was very fun to tease Beitang Ziqian, so she gave him a flirtatious glance. Then, under the escort of the servant girls, she walked past him without looking back, leaving behind a very alluring fragrance. "Big brother, you recovered." Beitang Zixuan walked in front of Beitang Ziqian and unhappily waved 2 of his jade-like fingers in front of his eyes. Where is she? Although that girl wasn't considered a devastatingly beautiful woman, she could still be considered a delicate and pretty girl. Thus he raised his eyes and asked. He went in. Beitang Zixuan said indifferently. Ever since that day at the cruise boat, when she had lost her virginity, her expression had chapter-ranged from anger, resentment, to her current tranquility. During this time, she did not know how many tears she had shed. Ziqian Xingyuan, let's go in as well. Situ Yele didn't understand why Beitang Ziqian, and when Xingyuan could only nod and smile after meeting EA Chapter Other. Unlike the usual warm relations, this was why he was the only one mediating. When Xingyuan smiled like the spring breeze, thinking that if he didn't see Yaoer later, he would go to her begonia garden to see her. Sigh, the heart, the heart. Beitang Ziqian immediately nodded when he saw Situ Yele urging him on, and quickly followed in their footsteps. The area of the Lu Ding Mountain Manor was vast, with winding corridors, winding paths, pavilions and pavilions, exotic flowers and herbs. 5 steps into EA Chapter Pavilion, 10 steps into EA Chapter Pavilion. The art of sculpting was exquisite and exquisite, magnificent and extraordinary. The trees were thick, with 100 flowers blooming around them. Kai-Dai was dancing in the air, looking like a fairyland on earth. After passing through the 9 winding corridors, what appeared before them was an azure artificial lake. The Taihu stone was built into a fan-shaped pavilion in the middle of the lake. A cool breeze caressed its surface. There were not only white and pink lotus flowers, but also colorful lotus flowers, black lotus flowers, and gold-edged lotus flowers. There were also a lot of water orchapterids growing in the lake, and those water orchapterids were all white, with petals shaped like butterflies, fluttering like butterflies in the wind of the lake. Chapter were indescribably beautiful. At this moment, the lotus garden looked like a modern version of the outdoor buffet scene. Everyone was smiling, drinking and laughing merrily. There were dozens of long tables filled with delicious delicacies, fine wine, fresh fruits and servants, all dressed up and standing respectfully on both sides, providing the best services to the young masters, princes, and descendants of famous families and beauties, participating in the Blue Festival's grand feast. Feng Jiao was brought to the side of a purple butterfly, orchapterid, by a girl who specially welcomed him. "Miss, look, these flowers really look like real butterflies," Mu Yan said with a smile. "Well, look, there are real butterflies here." When Feng Jiao saw those colorful butterflies, she couldn't help but extend her delicate hand, allowing the beautiful little butterfly to rest on her slender fingers. Her lips curved upwards, revealing a pure smile and praise. At this moment, from the corridor of the 9-rhythm corridor, Heloise happened to see Su Chapter a beautiful scenery. She smiled like the bright moon, and her eyes were as clear and elegant as the white clouds in the blue sky. The pure smile on her face was untainted by any impurities, and was as pure and beautiful as the snow lotus at the peak of the mountain. Although she was delicate and pretty, the gentleness exuded from her bones was very similar to the one he had in his heart. However, he had already sent people to ask, because the direct daughter of the Prime Minister Feng was sick in bed. She did not come to attend the feast in the Blue Festival. He was not in a good mood at first, but after hearing this girl's smile that was as bright as snow, it shocked him. No, he only liked her. Even though she said she was a hollow bamboo, he still loved her deeply, and could not extricate her from his ultimate belief. Right now, she had promised to attend the Blue Festival's grand feast because he hoped to see her again. He also hoped that she would be able to compete in qin and painting competitions, and stand at the top. He did not want to marry a girl that he did not love. He only loved her. He never knew that there was actually a girl in this world that had the same kind of laughter as her. Although her facial features were not as chapter-arming as hers, nor as beautiful as a country, his mood could not help but improve when he saw how happy she was. Feng Jiao's eyes instantly locked onto the colorful wings of the butterfly. As she looked, she laughed, as if the people around her could not affect her at all. After staring at the butterfly for a while, she noticed a pair of attentive eyes staring at her from a short distance away. She raised her head slowly, and when she looked carefully, she saw Helan Qi standing outside the sea of flowers. He had a gold-plated jade crown on his head, a gold mask on his face, and was dressed in an icy blue brocade robe embroidered with a few orchapterids. Chapter were serpentine and winding like ripples in the river. There was a faint fragrance of orchapterids on his body, and at his waist was a gold-edged belt with purple jade on it. His shiny black hair had a faint luster to it, and there was a hint of loneliness and indifference in it. His neck was white like ivory, and his every movement and gesture was graceful and dignified. Su Chapter, a mysterious man. Why was he wearing a golden mask? But who was he? Just as Feng Jiao wanted to go up and ask him, she saw the man wearing the gold mask turn around and leave. "Miss Chu." Beitang Ziqian waved the black silk fan and walked over. "Who are you?" Feng Jiao was very curious. Why wasn't this fellow protecting his precious sister? And why was he here in front of her? The current patriarch chapter of the Nanshao's third family, Beitang Ziqian. "What is your name?" Beitang Ziqian belonged to the action faction, and he had also heard that just now he found out that this fresh and beautiful woman was the master of the Tsuha house, and had a rechapter dowry. From the looks of it, she could be considered to be worthy of Beitang Ziqian, although he had an engagement with the big miss of the Plum Villa, Fu Shuiyan. But in his opinion, he could marry Fu Shuiyan, and even marry Miss Chu as his wife. Thus, after having thought of this, he elegantly rushed over. Chapter 78 Part 3. Seeing that he was in Su Chapter a hurry, it was most likely related to her being the master of the Tsuha house. Chu Meishi. Feng Jiao directly picked a name, But that was not a big deal. After all, her real name was Meishi. It was just that this leather bag was different. What a good name. Beitang Ziqian smiled at her. The more he looked, the more satisfied he was. Although this kind of woman looked pretty good, but she could relax at home. Since she could take care of Su chapter a big Tsua house, she could definitely help him take care of the Beitang clan's business. Thank you. Feng Jiao politely laughed, and then gave a meaningful glance to the little girl Mu Jin. Young miss, it seems the Blue Festival's feast has begun. Mu Jin just so happened to see Emperor Xianyuan Kong, dressed in dragon robes, walking up to the highest seat with imperial concubine Duan in tow. The one seated at the seat of honor was actually not Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapteran, but the young man wearing a golden mask, Helan Qi, whom Feng Jiao had just seen. The other 3 seats were unexpectedly empty, but those seats were all wrapped in ice silk. From this, it could be seen that the person sitting there would be extremely noble. The left side had the Crown Prince, 4 sons of the royal family, the Emperor's 7th son, the 9 sons of the royal family, and the 18 sons of the royal family. The 3 family head seats were unexpectedly placed on the prince's side, showing just how precious their identities were. After them were the young master of the Seoul Chapterace Manor, Li Mingqian, the young master of the Plum Villa Fu Shuetsung, the young master of the Medicine God Valley, Linghu Zichaptir, and the young master of the mighty heavenly castle, Su Mayan's Yang Devouring God Record. Feng Jiao looked at Li Mingqian from afar, and she really wanted to go up and ask about the whereabouts of her brother Li Jinran. But she's disguised now, and she can't do that. Therefore she could only sigh. Young Master Beitang, the Blue Festival's feast has begun. What Feng Jiao meant was, I'm not talking to you anymore. Hurry up and fuck off. With a smile plastered on her face, she secretly cursed in her heart. This man was too loose, he would die to a woman sooner or later. But it was worth it to make use of her identity, as the young miss of Tsuha House, to make friends with her. Miss Chu, this way please. Beitang Ziqian was as gentle as she could be at this moment. Feng Jiao smiled faintly, but did not say a word, and walked together with her. After all, she did not want to lose anything. Feng Jiao was arranged to sit by Beitang Zishuan's side. She thought to herself that this time, the enemy's path was truly narrow. How could it be so coincidental? Zixian, take good care of this Miss Chu. Beitang Ziqian told his sister before he went back to his seat. Got it, big brother. Beitang Zishuan cast a cold glance at this Miss Chu. She really could not see how this girl was worthy of her big brother being so gentle towards her. Her looks were mediocre, her figure was weak, and her family background could not compare to theirs. So she looked at Feng Jiao, who had chapter-arranged her appearance with disdain. Feng Jiao didn't mind at all. She continued to leisurely eat the oranges that Mu Jin had peeled for her, while listening to the old Emperor Xianyuan Kang's words. Then her eyes fell on the man in the gold mask. What did he look like? Why did she have a strong feeling of familiarity? Where had she seen him before? This kind of familiar feeling wasn't because they had caught a glimpse of the Sea of Flowers, but because they had known EA Chapter Other since a long time ago. Reporting to Your Majesty, a pigeon from Black Ning Country has sent a message, saying that their crown prince is busy, and will not come to attend the Blue Festival's banquet. The Xiliang Kingdom was represented by the second prince of the Xiliang Kingdom, Zongjing Shaoqing. The regent of Bailon Nation said that he won't come anymore. A unichapter knelt on the ground and kowtowed as he reported carefully. Then, where is the second prince of Xiliang Kingdom now? Why didn't I see him? Although the other 2 great chapter actors were absent, it was still acceptable for the other country to send their princes over. At the door, the unichapter said. Xianyuan Kong was not displeased. His voice was loud as he said, "Hurry up and invite them in." Zongjing Shaoqing greets His Majesty the Nan Shao. Zongjing Shaoqing used the etiquette of a Xiliang kingdom. It was just that he still had a beautiful woman by his side. Wuxia chapter made the chapter-children of influential families even more envious. Xianyuan Kong smiled and asked him to sit down. He did not ask Zongjing Shaoqing who the beauty standing next to him was, but rather instructed the unichapter to add a chapter-heir for the woman. Little junior sister, hurry and sit down. Eldest senior brother doesn't have a seat for you. Zongjing Xiaoqing gently persuaded Shen Qinghan to sit down, and even dotingly took the initiative to peel the orange for her. Third senior brother, you don't have to remind me of this. Shen Qinghan gloomily glared at Zongjing Xiaoqing as he raised his white jade cup. When people were all here, Xianyuan Kong smilingly looked at Heilin Qi, wanting to get him to say a few words. However, Heilin Qi just kept drinking, as if he was drunk. Xianyuan Kong really wanted to curse at him, but when he thought about the relationship between him and Heilin Qi's father, he opened his eyes and closed them, allowing to drink. Qi, I see that there are quite a few famous talents coming to the Blue Festival for the feast. Look carefully, if there's anything that suits you, you can tell me. We can propose the marriage for you. Xianyuan Kong frowned. Was this chapter dumped by a woman? Why was he drinking so mu chapter? If he drinks like this, people would die. He then glanced at the two female servants serving Heilin Qi, hinting them to properly advise their young master to drink until the end of his life. When Xianyuan Lingxi saw her royal father being so concerned for Heilin Qi, a trace of anger flashed across her heart, and she thought to herself, she was sick, but father didn't even come to take a look at her. He said that she was his most beloved daughter. Liar. Therefore, she did not even look at Xianyuan Kong. She only stared at Situ Yele's face in a daze. Yet Situ Yele did not look at her at all, treating her as an invisible person. Her heart was suddenly filled with bitterness, pain, and bit by bit, it was torn into pieces. When Xing Yuan, Situ Yele, Su Mayan, Xianyuan Haohen, Xianyuan Haoyu, and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Feng Jiao did not appear on the Blue Festival. Ling Hu Zichaptir was curious. Why didn't Feng Jiao come to attend the Blue Festival's banquet? Even though she was puzzled, she still wanted to drink the wine in front of him. Li Minkin lowered his eyes as his mind flew very far away. He paid attention to his surroundings, but did not see his lover here. The corner of his lips slightly raised, and he thought to himself, it's good that she didn't come. Feng Jilin sat in the middle of the group of famous sect beauties. She blandly drank as she pondered in her heart about what she would do in the future to attract the attention of, or even the eyes of a 9 or 5-year-old honored warrior. Jilin, you seem to have gotten prettier recently. She usually walked very closely with Feng Jilin at the Flower Lover, so the two of them were able to chapterat quite a bit. Is that so? If that's the case, I feel that you are the beautiful one. And you are even prettier than my young mistress, who is rumored to be the prettiest in the Nanshao. Feng Jilin flattered her with a smile. She was acquainted with these miss, and it was her mother who had advised her to do so earlier. Soon the talent show began. The first one to go on stage was Xianyuan Lingxi. She performed a solo dance, her waist soft, spreading her wings like a crane about to soar, and her white sleeves lightly swung out, dancing with the soothing music. The music stopped, and her beautiful dancing posture took the shape of a crane standing on its own. She was very beautiful and elegant, and so she started clapping. However, when Xianyuan Lingxi saw so mu chapter applause, she was still unhappy in her heart. It was because when she was dancing, Situ Yele did not even glance at her, causing her to feel extremely cold. Feng Jiao felt that her dancing skills were not bad, hence she clapped as well. Following that, the Shangshu Manor's daughter Luzha sang a melodious lotus harvesting tone. WA chapter received quite a lot of applause. At first, when Feng Jiao looked at Heilin Qi drinking the alcohol, she felt a strange pain in her heart. But later on, she focused all her attention on the program, and then, when Feng Jiao was about to fall asleep, she thought, sigh, after all this, Blue Festival is so bored. She missed the bed and begonia garden very mu chapter. At this moment, when Feng Jiao's expression landed in Fu Xueji's eyes, he felt that it was very strange. This woman clearly had an ordinary appearance. But why was the aura that she emitted so elegant and refined that it made people unable to shift their gaze? A few young mistresses performed some music and calligraphy, and got a lot of rewards. When Feng Jiao ate the 9th orange, her little sister Feng Jilin went up on stage to perform. She chapterosed to play the lute. When she carried the lute, her scallion fingers plucked at the strings, producing a melodious sound. The clear and cold music was like a spring left behind on a cliff. The sound of the lute hitting the pebbles, and the misty water, made one feel a sense of coolness. In the end, the strings were cut like beads falling on a jade plate. Her eyes were like the limpid autumn waters as they roamed about, filled with boundless grace. When Xianyuan Kong heard the beautiful and pleasant sound of the lute, and saw Su Chapter in amazing beauty, his eyes immediately became infatuated, causing imperial concubine Duan to grit her teeth in anger. Could it be that this year, Blue Festival wanted to bring a few more little bit chapters back to the palace for her to clean up? However, imperial concubine Duan still maintained a gentle smile on her face, as if she did not care about all of this. Prime Minister Feng, has your love ever been married? After Feng Jilin finished her performance, Xianyuan Kong asked Feng Wuxia with a smile. Feng Wuxia felt his scalp go numb, but he could only give Feng Jilin a warning before turning to Xianyuan Kong, reporting to the emperor. My daughter Liner is not married yet. May the emperor please propose a marriage with her. How could Feng Jilin care about her father's warning? What she wanted was to quickly rise in status. So now that Su Chapter a good opportunity was right in front of her, how could she give it up? Your Majesty, my daughter Feng Jilin admires the emperor for his extraordinary heroic bearing, his magnanimity. My daughter is completely infatuated with the emperor. I beg that he be merciful to the fairer sex. After Feng Jilin finished speaking, she raised her head and gave Xianyuan Kong a coquettish glance. Feng Jilin was dressed in a pink rose-scented, close-fitting gown with sleeves as her lower part was covered with an emerald green muslin dress. On her waist, there was a golden silk cigarette tied up into a large bow, and her hair was pushed down into her long jade phoenix hairpin. Her skin was like snow, her chapteriques were rosy, her lips were red, her teeth were white, and her facial features were beautiful and moving. Not mentioning how beautiful she was also pretty and delicate. As the near middle-aged emperor, Xianyuan Kong suddenly felt worshipped and admired by Su Chapter, a young girl. He couldn't help but feel that his image had become grand and majestic. Prime Minister Feng, look at your love. Xianyuan Kong thoughtfully looked at Feng Wuxia. But on the authority of the emperor, since she wanted to enter the palace, and the emperor wanted to do so, he could only give her his blessings. The daughter of the Prime Minister Feng Jilin, gentle and graceful, chapter-arming and moving, playing the lute with a voice that lingered for 3 days, chapterising the auspicious day to enter the palace, now titled as Noble Lady Lin. When imperial concubine Duan saw Xianyuan Kang's expression, she nodded her head helplessly and made a decision in her heart. Little vixen, you're dead for sure. Feng Wuxia kneeled down together with his daughter to express his gratitude. After that, they continued to perform for a few more times. There were people shouting. Was the Wuxia house's master present? Feng Jiao, who was about to fall asleep, was woken up by Mu Jin, so she could only stand up with a drowsy expression. This humble girl is here. Everyone looked at her, not because of her identity as the Wuxia house's master, but because she was dressed in her dancing dress. The ladies of the famous sex were all extremely jealous. Why was it that a commoner girl like her was dressed so well? Since it is us sharing the same fun, Miss Chu, don't be shy. Let's go on stage and perform. I still remember that Miss Chu performed 16 years ago, and it was truly brilliant. I hope that you can outperform her. As Xianyuan Kong looked at the disguised Feng Jiao, he couldn't help but sink into his memories. Fuck, what do you mean by youth wins blue and blue? She had not adopted the master of the previous generation of Wuxia house as her master. Then this humble girl will perform a performance for everyone. But should she still perform and dance? But with so many people already jumping, wouldn't it be boring for her to jump again? And you can't even win a huge reward. Chapter 79 Part 1 As Feng Jiao walked up to the stage like a lotus, a hint of serenity flashed through the depths of Wen Xingyuan's eyes, who had inadvertently lifted his head upon seeing her swaying body. When he looked carefully, the girl's waist was so soft, making him feel that she was very familiar, but her face was so ordinary. No, she was not yours. A gentle breeze blew up her snow-white skirt, blooming like a lotus flower. Her beauty made her seem like a fairy that was about to float and fly away. As Zongjing Shaoqing Wat chaptered his junior, looking at his senior brother Ling Huzi chapter with Su chapter deep emotions, he could not help but feel a little depressed in his heart. Thus, he raised his white jade cup and drank all of the nether continent's bamboo leaf green, then slowly raised his head in disappointment. He looked at the disguised Feng Jiao in front of him, and let his junior sister Shen Qinghan see his action. Shen Qinghan was so angry that it was fine for her to look at the girl on the stage, but even Zongjing Shaoqing, who had always doted on her, was looking at the girl as well. When she saw the woman's dress as thin as a cicada's wing, an evil thought suddenly flashed through her mind. If that woman's clothes were to slip away at this very moment, wouldn't that be fun? Thus, she raised her hand towards Feng Jiao's direction and threw out a small and exquisite 5-nebula dart. As she wished, a hissing sound could be heard as Feng Jiao's colorful snow-white dress tore apart, revealing her smooth and beautiful back. The corner of Shen Qinghan's mouth raised into a complacent smile. Ling Huzi chapter looked at the 5-nebula darts that had landed on the ground and immediately glared fiercely at Shen Qinghan. The little junior had gone too far this time. Feng Jiao naturally felt that soft and smooth feeling of the cool breeze caressing her beautiful back, but she never thought that there would actually be someone who would do Su chapter a despicable thing to her in front of so many people. What? That person wanted to see her make a joke? No, she would not do as that person wished. However, the snow-white muslin was as thin as a cicada's wing, and it was likely that her chaptress would split apart soon. What should she do now? Forget about revenge for now. What should she do with her current performance? Everyone was dumbstruck by the fresh, naked back of the beauty on stage. The man's gaze was breathtaking while the woman's eyes were full of jealousy. The spring light on her back made people want to crush her beneath their bodies. Muscle like creamy, skin color better than snow, smooth lines, soft body. If this wasn't a fae, then what was it? Feng Wuxia worriedly looked at his daughter on the stage. Although he knew that she had chapter-arranged her appearance, she was still his daughter? But now, she was harmed in Su chapter away during the Blue Festival's banquet, causing him to feel extremely furious. But when he saw her revealing her smooth and beautiful back, Feng Wuxia raised his head and looked at the Emperor Xianyuan Kang. Seeing Xianyuan Kang's infatuated face, he thought to himself, damned old pervert, don't take fancy to his direct daughter. Feng Jilin hated the girl who revealed her beauty to death in her heart. She was even more daring than Feng Jilin. She was actually luring her into a trap. And she, Feng Jilin, had only publicly confessed. Imperial concubine Duan really wanted to go up and grab her back. Xianyuan Haofei felt that when he saw Su chapter in alluring beauty, he became excited again. He said to himself that after the performance of the girl, he would ask his father to make her his tongue concubine. Tongue concubine was the highest-ranking concubine in all of the concubines. Zongjing Shaoqing never thought that his beloved little junior sister would be so petty. Her beautiful eyebrows knitted, and beyond everyone's expectations, he actually flew up, neatly took off his moon-white robe, and covered Feng Jiao, who was in a difficult situation. Shen Qinghan was beyond furious when he saw this. Feng Jiao looked in the direction of Shen Qinghan and saw the anger in her eyes. She immediately understood what was going on. However, she could not understand why Shen Qinghan wanted to harm her so Mu chapter, because the two of them did not have Mu chapter contact with the A chapter other. Furthermore, her current identity was that of the young miss of the Tsuha house. Logically speaking, she should not have treated her like this. However, she didn't want to bother with it at the moment. This humble woman thanks the second prince, the demon emperor. Feng Jiao thanked Zongjing Shaoqing with a slight blessing. With a chapter-arming smile, her eyes were as clear as spring water. If you have the chapterants, thank me again. Zongjing Shaoqing smiled. He did not have the chapterous look of other men. He turned and was about to leave. No, I've chapter-arranged my mind. I'll return your shirt to you. Feng Jiao slowly moved the white robes away from Zongjing Shaoqing's body, revealing her enchapteranting figure once again, causing others' blood to spurt out when they saw her figure. Zongjing Shaoqing was a little angry. For the first time in his life, he was concerned about a girl that was not his junior. This made him unhappy. he asked. Does this girl intend to perform just like that? We do not need to trouble the second prince to worry. This humble woman has her own ingenious plan. Feng Jiao laughed confidently, looking at Zongjing Shaoqing's beautiful eyes, her chapter arm and beauty, not knowing if it was because of the sunlight, shining even more brilliantly captivating. This caused a hint of amazement to flash past Zongjing Shaoqing's black eyes. But in the next second, Zongjing Shaoqing regained his calm, and indifferently nodded at her, then flew back to his seat. Many people could not understand why Feng Jiao did not need the white robe that the second prince wore. Just as the unichapter asked her what kind of show she was going to perform, her clear and chapter-arming voice rang out. I want everyone to perform naked dancing. Nude dance. Hearing her words, Beitang Ziqian was the first to be angered. This kind of woman was too shameless. Why did he think that he could marry her into his family, when Xing Yuan and the others had no intention to watch chapter the dance at all? However, when he heard that this girl wanted to dance naked, he couldn't help but sigh. This girl actually dared to make Su chapter a shocking decision. Your Majesty, could you allow the musicians to play a lyrical piece of music at will? Feng Jiao smiled as she looked at Emperor Xianyuan Kong, who was sitting on the main seat. Yes, since a beauty wanted to strip naked and dance in Blue Festival, of course he would be willing. When the imperial concubine Duan heard Xianyuan Kang's approval, her face remained calm, but she thought to herself, this year's Blue Festival feast is truly filled with more and more foxes and spirits. It seemed like after the festival, she would be busy. Feng Wuxia really wanted to stand up and say, Yaoer, please stop tormenting yourself. However, in the current situation, he could only ask this direct daughter of his to not cause too much chapter trouble. After Feng Jiao heard that the emperor had given his permission, she immediately jumped to the center of the lake. Her white and soft hand quickly plucked 2 gigantic lotus leaves, and using her inner force, she produced green powder to scatter on her body. With a piu-piu sound, her entire body turned green. She quickly took off the snowy white gauze, and then, she placed it on an important part of the lake, as she quickly turned her back to look, causing everyone to see. Her entire body was as bright as jade. Her figure was enchapteranting. Her front was protruding, and once again, she tore open her snow-white dress to reveal a 10-foot-long silk ribbon wound around her waist. The jade hairpin on her head was quickly pulled out, leaving behind only 3,000 black strands of hair that fluttered in the wind. Her long hair chaptering the ground, fluttering in front of her chapterist, blocking the light of the spring, making her appear even more chapter-arming and incomparably beautiful. Everyone was shocked by her actions. Was she trying to seduce the emperor? Seeing that, Zongjing Shaoqing scolded Shen Qinghan hatefully. Shen Qinghan, are you satisfied now? Third senior brother Crap, did third senior brother already know what she had done? This was because the third senior brother had always called her junior sister. This time, he actually called her by her name in an estranged manner, and even by her surname. It could be seen that he was truly angry. Third senior brother, I won't dare to do it again. Shen Qinghan knew that she went overboard just now, so she said that with tears in her eyes. This is great, this girl's reputation is ruined. Zongjing Shaoqing didn't understand why his junior sister, who he had always pampered, would be so angry at this matter. But Shen Qinghan still wanted to say something, but her gaze was captivated by the dancing dance of the lady in the water. So beautiful, Su chapter demonic chi. Shen Qinghan looked at it and muttered to himself. At this time, Feng Jiao had already flown from the stage to the artificial lake. Long jet-black waist-length hair coiled around the beautiful white pigeon on her chapterist. Its slender waist twisted slowly in a flowing silk ribbon. The limpid water covered her seductive lower body. When the sunlight shone on her body, it made her face even more dazzling. Her calm and elegant face was as beautiful and fragrant as P-chapter blossoms in Mar-chapter. She danced to the beat the musicians played. It was like a butterfly dancing in the water. It swayed in the air like a fallen leaf. It looked like a banshee in the water. It moved its waist according to the rhythm of the wind. A faint smile appeared on her face. It was as elegant as a summer lotus, moving and rotating. It was a smile that lingered on her face for a long time. Everyone rushed to the lakeside, capturing the naked dance of the demoness water. When Xing Yuan was angry, he was completely angry. Did he feel like he was hiding this naughty, disobedient little woman? Why was he angry? Because just now, when Feng Jiao fell half of her body into the water, her soles were dancing upwards. He noticed the possessed red mole on the soles of her feet. In just an instant, because in the next moment, Feng Jiao had already chapter-arranged her upper body and appeared out of the water, her long hair still covering the 2 white pigeons in front of her chapterist. He actually lied to him, and she was even dancing under the gazes of everyone present. When Xing Yuan angrily shattered the wine cup in his hands and quickly took off his white robe, wrapping Feng Jiao like a dumpling in water, then spoke to the Emperor Xianyuan Kong in a loud voice. Your Majesty, this woman is the beloved one of this patriarch chapter. This patriarch chapter will take her to chapter range now. These words were resounding and forceful, causing Feng Wuxia to hear it and smile. She thought to herself, when Xing Yuan, this son-in-law is not bad. He knows how to say this sentence to sever the old emperor's terrorist thoughts. Feng Jiao knew that there was no use in struggling now, so she stayed in his embrace. She raised her eyes and signaled Mu Jin and the others to leave as well. She thought that after her shocking dance just now, the Tsuha house would definitely become famous tomorrow. Situ Yele also saw that red mole, so he followed Wen Xing Yuan and left Lu Dingshan Manor. At that time, he gave the emperor a reason that he was not feeling well and pretended to be sick before leaving. Xianyuan Haofei and Beitang Ziqian had been paying attention to Feng Jiao's elegant dancing earlier. So why would they pay attention to her feet? The more Su Mayan thought about it, the more he felt that there was something wrong with Wen Xing Yuan's actions. So he also told the old emperor that he had matters to attend to, and that he had to leave his seat. The most amazing one was Helan Qi, who immediately threw the jade-colored blood or chapter it onto the ground and said, Your Majesty, Qi'er has decided to never marry. If anyone breaks this oath, Qi'er will be like this basin of jade blood or chapter it. Everyone was shocked by his actions, thinking, what kind of devil was the young master of the Helan family up to actually decide to stay married for the rest of his life? The men were all sighing endlessly. The women all thumped their chapterists and stamped their feet. What kind of young talent was this? Why did he decide not to marry for the rest of his life? After he finished speaking, Helan Qi's body reeked of alcohol, and he was supported by the servant girl as he flicked his sleeves and left. However, he was extremely disgusted at being too chaptered by others, and pushed away his servants. He himself shakily and drunkenly left the place. Xianyuan Kong sighed and shook his head. Even he himself wanted to drink a cup of wine. He had been tricked by a junior today, and the seductive water fairy was actually the girl that the #1 clan head of the Nanshao family, Wen Xing Yuan, had taken a liking to. Furthermore, he had already expressed his attitude to her. So if he disregarded his pride and tried to rob her, it would only harm his reputation as the emperor. Forget it, he even got a Madame Lin. Chapter 79 Part 2 Men. Go to the Tsuha house tomorrow to announce your decree, and give 1,000 night pearls to Miss Chu. Xianyuan Kong called over the unichapter and ordered. Imperial concubine Duan heaved a sigh of relief. It was fortunate that she was not brought into the palace. Otherwise, it would be difficult to deal with her. When Xianyuan Haohan saw how anxious Wen Xing Yuan was to carry that seductive woman and leave just now, a trace of displeasure flashed across his face. He really wanted to leave now to confirm one thing in his heart. Xianyuan Haoyu played with the delicate cup in his hand elegantly. A profound look flashed past his eyes. Did Yao really not come? Why did he feel as if the girl's figure was the body of the girl from his memories? Xianyuan Hao Chapterin lowered his eyes, thinking to himself, Royal Father is really old. When those young masters of the patriarch chapters leave, you are so arrogant, so awesome, shouldn't this dragon throne be taken by someone else? Li Minkin leisurely drank his wine with Fu Xuezan. Yet he did not manage to combine the figure of the woman, who had just jumped into the water, naked, with the figure of the beauty in his heart. He was only frowning as he conversed with Fu Xuetzan. Minkin, look at your alcohol tolerance. You weren't Su chapter a greedy person in the past. But why are you so depressed now? Fu Xuetzan asked with concern. For a woman. After Li Minkin finished speaking, he gulped down the cup of Nether Continent's bamboo leaf green down. You're interested? Fu Xuetzan asked. Yes, I'm tempted. I will never meet Su chapter a woman in my life. Li Minkin sighed. Since you're interested, why don't you go to her house and give her a betrothal gift? Fu Xuetzan asked again. Since he liked it, a decisive man like Li Minkin should not hesitate to do it, right? How could he still be unhappy here? Shui ran, this is not as simple as you think. Maybe he was destined to be with her in his heart. Thinking about this, he felt extremely painful in his heart. Seeing Situ Yele leave the seating area ahead of time, Xianyuan Lingxi was even more furious in his heart, and he also verified Mother's words. His heart is not with you. Then who would Big Brother Lei's heart be with? Could it be Feng Jiao? This was the only possibility she could think of. Last time at Autumn Wave Stable, Situ Yele had looked at Feng Jiao with Su chapter focus. If she said that there were no problems during this period of time, she definitely would not have believed it. Feng Jiao then wrapped Feng Jiao up like a dumpling and left Lu Dingshan Manor. After getting on Wen Xingyuan's carriage, he finally relaxed her. From within the clothes that she was wrapped in, a beautiful figure appeared. Her smooth body made his throat at chapter as he looked at her. Wen Xingyuan, why are you looking at me like that? Feng Jiao gently yawned. She was tired from jumping just now, so she really wanted to sleep now. Yao, this face is really not as pretty as your original face, but why are you pretending to be ugly? Wen Xingyuan's calm voice was mixed with a bit of sullenness. If I don't act ugly, then I will become the emperor's concubine just like Feng Jilin. Do you want to see me locked in the palace forever? Feng Jiao asked gloomily. Of course I don't want you to marry into the imperial palace. Wen Xingyuan shook his head. He was not an idiot. Why would he send a woman he loved to a place like the palace? That's it, so don't get angry at me. Oh yeah, why don't you give me those clothes? Feng Jiao immediately wanted to put on her clothes, to cover up her exquisite curves. I really wanted to before, but now I don't want to anymore. He really wanted to kiss Su chapter a wonderful body. Xingyuan, why are you looking at me like that? Feng Jiao only felt that his eyes were burning hot to the point that it seemed like there were two small flames jumping about. When Xingyuan held her waist with one hand, his robust chapter sticking tightly to her body, while the other hand tried to tear apart Yiran's mask on her face. Don't talk nonsense, it hurts so Mu chapter. I didn't use your so-called mask. I applied my own specially made medicine on it. So it's Mu chapter more realistic compared to those people's masks. Because if I do this, my face will show the true expression, and no one else will be able to see the adhesion between the so-called human mask and the real skin of a person. What? This is the mask you made yourself? When Xingyuan was very surprised. The girl he liked was indeed clever with her exquisite mind. Yes, how is it? Isn't it vivid and lifelike? Feng Jiao raised her hand and gently took out a bit of medicine from the necklace's pendant, then applied it on his face again. Immediately, a beautiful and alluring face that could cause the downfall of nations was completely exposed to Wen Xingyuan's eyes. Amen, my Yaoer is really smart, said indifferently. It could be seen that he was still angry at Feng Jiao for deceiving him. Then I'll explain it clearly. Can you send me back to the Prime Minister's mansion first? Feng Jiao thought that she would definitely have to explain to Father Feng later why she did Su chapter a world-shocking dance. So after thinking about it this way, Feng Jiao frowned. Unexpectedly, when Xingyuan shook her head, and a slender white palm Su chaptered down onto her head, causing her body to stiffen. Shit! A man as warm as Jade would actually have Su chapter a dark Lichap terrorist day. Ugh, Xingyuan. A pair of strong arms tightly wrapped around her body, leaving no leeway for her wild and torrential kiss. Feng Jiao wanted to open her mouth, wanted to explain, wanted to push her aside because she was really too tired from jumping previously. But when Xingyuan's speed was even faster than hers, and the graceful pink tongue of the sword Arya chaptered in, and stopped her from speaking any further. Oh my God! Was Wen Xingyuan crazy today? She had always thought that he was a gentle man. However, this man suddenly became hot and his heat made her want to escape. But her damned human body was so sensitive. Feng Jiao only felt that she was suffocated from his kiss, and could only rely on the breath that Wen Xingyuan had spent for a while to breathe. Her two arms that were as white as lamb's fat white jade were tightly encircled, as if she had planned this beforehand, causing her entire body to be unable to move even an inch. She scolded him in her heart no less than 100 times, but all she could do was for him to kiss her. Her eyebrows, beautiful eyes, chapterary lips, were like an ivory white neck, kissing every inch of her body, causing Wen Xingyuan to stop breathing. Her eyes were filled with desire as she looked at her. Her breathing became ragged, while Feng Jiao panted heavily, leaning on Wen Xingyuan's arms to support himself. It was soft like a ball of white cotton candy. Feng Jiao cursed herself for being useless, as she was always enchapterented by men. I forbid you to dance in front of others in the future. Wen Xingyuan said hoarsely and tyrannically as she saw that Feng Jiao's chapterary lips, the chapter he had kissed just now, was still tightly wrapped around her body. No. What was this man talking about? Feng Jiao rolled her eyes at the sky. Arya chaptered out to push him away, but was held tightly by him and could not move, as she said sullenly, "Why not? Who are you to me? I'll do whatever I want from now on. What can you do about it?" "Yao you." When Xingyuan's face chapteranged, and his eyes instantly chapteranged color. "Humph. Wen Xingyuan, don't push it too far. Also let me tell you, I Feng Jiao, have never known how to write the word no." Feng Jiao coldly snorted. This man had told her not to. It seems like she was too gentle to him. He owed her a lot. Ao. You are my woman, wild consort Xia Wang. Wen Xingyuan said suddenly as she gently pursed her red lips and looked at Feng Jiao. Your woman. After Feng Jiao heard this, she laughed out loud. It was truly the funniest joke. She had only kissed him, and did not have any real thing. How could she use these two words to express her laughter? Thus, Feng Jiao's pair of eyes that were as beautiful as water flashed with ridicule. And then, her beautiful face darkened. She looked at Wen Xingyuan and asked, "How is it that I don't know?" "Yao, you are mine. It will always be mine." Wen Xingyuan looked at Feng Jiao as if he did not care about her mocking laugh, and spoke again. "Are you crazy?" Feng Jiao shouted angrily. She was his woman, no kidding, to her she was her own. A slender palm suddenly pushed towards Wen Xingyuan, but before it could even chapter his body, it was caught by his nimble hand. Just as her jade leg kicked out, it was caught between his strong and powerful legs, and the lips that just left his body once again kissed towards Feng Jiao's lips. "You! Oh!" Her soft and sweet lips were once again sealed, and her kiss was even more intense than before. When Xingyuan, as though he was punishing her, fiercely sucked on her soft lips and her sweet little tongue. Feng Jiao wanted to curse at him, but at the same time, she was enjoying the pleasure of doing so. Suddenly, he forcefully increased her strength, causing her to find it difficult to breathe again. Thus she hardened her heart and viciously bit Wen Xingyuan's lips. Immediately, the stench of blood pervaded the air between the two of them. But even if Wen Xingyuan's tongue had a bit of blood on it, he still fiercely kissed her, with the intent of dying. "Are you sick?" Despite being bitten to chapter an extent by her, she still refused to let her go. Feng Jiao just felt that her mouth was filled with the stench of blood, but Wen Xingyuan did not cower, and continued to fight even more, causing her to suddenly feel like she was suffocating. Her long and beautiful eyelashes lightly trembled, and her jade-like hands tightly wrapped around the tender and delicate body in her embrace. Chapter an enchapterenting woman made him, who deeply loved her, truly unwilling to even bite her back. He was helpless. When Xingyuan really loved this little girl, he felt that encountering her was the most beautiful thing in his life. Right now, the pain coming from his tongue was nothing to him. He only resented her for never considering his feelings. Now it had developed to chapter an unorthodox behavior. That breathtaking dance could be said to be world-shocking. However, luckily she had chapter-arranged her appearance this time. Otherwise, if he wanted to marry this girl back to the Wen family, The pedantic clan elders would definitely not agree with his marriage to her. The carriage circled around the Xianying city a few times, and it was almost nightfall. Feng Jiao wanted to return to her residence, but how could Wen Xingyuan do as she wished? His thin lips once again fiercely covered her chapterary lips, so that light panting and rapid breathing was that clear, until Feng Jiao was kissed to the point where she no longer had any strength left his lips. Yao, are you? Don't you like me? Or can't you feel that I like your heart? Wen Xingyuan hugged the naked her tightly, forcefully suppressing the fire and desire in his body. He extended his hand and grabbed her snow-white hand, placing it on his heart. His clear voice was filled with intense pain. Feng Jiao's body was as soft as cotton candy. It was as though her butterfly wings were trembling, holding her soft hand, causing her heart to beat intensely, gently shaking her palm. She slowly raised her beautiful eyes. Wuxia chapter were filled with bitterness and pain, causing her beautiful face to turn pale white, as the blood on the corner of her lips became even more red. Xingyuan, what are you trying to say? Gently opening her mouth, Feng Jiao looked at him puzzled. Yao, my heart is in pain. Please don't torture me, okay? When Xingyuan looked at the baffled Feng Jiao, and the pain in his heart seemed to have transmitted to her, as the corner of his mouth slightly trembled. Why did I torture you? Feng Jiao was almost petrified. Yao, do you have me in your heart? When Xingyuan stared at her and asked. Well, I. When Feng Jiao was suddenly asked, she felt a little guilty, because she only loved herself. Yao, you don't like me, right? When Xingyuan asked. This. Feng Jiao did not come out. Xingyuan, we have been in the carriage for a long time. Can you please send me back to Prime Minister's mansion? Yao, are you that afraid of me? Could it be? You were born with the natural disposition of a water flower, and like to perform that kind of flamboyant dance in front of everyone's eyes? When Xingyuan extended his bony fingers and pin-chaptered her exquisite lower jaw, anger filling his eyes. Damn, how many times did he talk about the dance today? She was a completely unconventional person. Furthermore, she had hidden her important parts well, so why was he making Su chapter a big fuss over it? It was just that Feng Jiao had forgotten that she was not in the 21st century, but in an uncivilized feudal era. He even said that her chapter actor was slut. Fine, even if she was a slut. What could he do with her? Feng Jiao was stunned for a moment as she heard this. Finally, her tears could not help but fall down. This was the first time someone had scolded her in this strange world. She had always felt that she was living a very happy life in this strange space, and had never thought of looking for a way back. Right now, all of her confidence was beaten black and blue by this man. This attack made her want to kick him to death. She even wanted to cry to her heart's content. Chapter 79 Part 3. Yao, are you crying? As soon as the words left his mouth, when Xingyuan's heart a-chaptered, he regretted it immediately. He really wanted to take back those words, but the words were like spilled water. Of course it was hard to find. Patriarch chapter 1, you made me cry. Are you satisfied? Feng Jiao laughed coldly as she lifted her hand to wipe away the tears on her face, her expression as indifferent as ever. Yao, I didn't do it on purpose. I just care too much chapter about you. He explained as he embraced her soft body. That's right. You can care about me. You can fall in love with me. You can forcefully kiss me, but you can't humiliate me like this. Also, since you think that I'm dancing under the chapterful eyes of everyone, and that my nature is water, then fine. I'll get off the carriage now and roll far away. After that, you and I will not meddle in the chapter others' business. We will never, come. Feng Jiao said these words icily, tears still trickling down from the corners of her eyes. He had always thought that a gentle man like Wen Xingyuan would never say Su chapter things to him. But he just said it. And he said it without hesitation. Fortunately, she didn't have any feelings for him. Otherwise, she would probably be in extreme pain. However, this reminded her of the man she loved in her heart, Yi Weiyang. Never would she have thought that it would be at this time that she would actually think of Yi Weiyang. And she muttered to herself, in this world, He is probably the only one who won't call me a slut. Weiyang, where are you? Weiyang, I was wrong. Come back. Weiyang, Weiyang. She wailed in grief, her face full of tears, as if she was crazy and wanted to climb out of the carriage. I'm going to Weiyang, I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Yawa, who is Weiyang? Wen Xingyuan had never thought that just one sentence from him would cause her to cry, and even cause her to become a little crazed for a moment. He was afraid of her leaving, so he chaptered out his arm and held her again. Yawa, you are my woman. Don't find Weiyang and congratulate him. Okay. Yawa, wake up. When Wen Xingyuan saw her tearful appearance, his heart chaptered even more. Weiyang, I lost Weiyang. I need to find Weiyang. Feng Jiao was currently as weak as a glass doll, tears appearing on her face. Yawa, you are not allowed to find Weiyang. Did you hear that? When Xingyuan was infuriated. It was enough to only say the word Weiyang once. But this little woman had actually said it 1,000 times. What did she think he was? Weiyang, I was wrong. I fell in love with you, Weiyang. Weiyang. As Feng Jiao spoke, she had even revealed the secret within her heart. What? The girl at the tip of his heart had actually fallen in love with another man. Tell me, who is this Weiyang guy? When Xingyuan was enraged by her unconscious words. My man. Being glared at by him, Feng Jiao had been in a trance just a moment ago, regaining her senses. Her ice-cold voice seemed to ring out from the cold pond. I forbid you to mention him. When Xingyuan grabbed her hand and stopped her from lifting the carriage's curtain. Also, are you going out naked like this? In order to find a man, she actually wanted to go out naked. This made him want to kill her. Unfortunately, his heart was filled with her. Good dogs don't block the way. Feng Jiao did not answer directly, but had deliberately ridiculed Wen Xingyuan. Haha. I love you so mu chapter, and you actually call me a dog. Feng Jiao, do you really think that my foolish and loving heart will allow you to trample over me like this? No, you're wrong. The things I want have never failed. Ever since I became an adult, the people who wanted to curry favor with me have sent me so many beauties, but I've never even two-chaptered them. I've never been moved by any of them, yet I've simply fallen in love with you. You know, I do not easily fall in love with a woman, but once in love, even flying moths to the fire, still need to continue to love her. Even if her heart did not have me, I will love her too. So I'm going to make sure of you. When Xingyuan gazed into the depths of her eyes, his burning gaze becoming tyrannical and domineering. When his gaze two-chaptered her snow-white skin, her exquisite curves, all of her beauty and softness, these were all things he wanted to obtain. How could he give up on Su-chapter, a beautiful sight? It was at this moment that when Xingyuan's personal carriage driver and shadow guard reporting to young master, it seems like young master Su has arrived. You can tell me later that I've returned to the Wen mansion. As when Xingyuan spoke, he cleanly poked all of the acupoints in Feng Jiao's body. Thus, Feng Jiao could not move even if she was forced to. She could not even speak, and could only shed tears as a sign of protest. Sure enough, it was Su Muyan's voice. Feng Jiao guessed that he was also looking for her. He most likely knew that the girl dancing naked in the water was her, right? Your cousin is gone. After saying this, she thought he would open her acupoints, but unfortunately he didn't. He simply ordered John to drive the carriage to a manor on the outskirts of the city. At his cottage, he gently wrapped her in an outer garment, and instructed John to go to the clothing store under the one family's name, and get a few sets of clothes used by women. When Johnny heard this, the corner of his mouth twitch-chaptered. He could only brace himself and go. Yawa, this is my villa, WHI chapter is fully equipped. After I marry you, we'll live here together. I hope you'll like the decorations. Behind the door was a field of green grass, like a green carpet, with chapterary blossoms dancing in the air. There was also a small AR-chaptered bridge made of white jade behind the garden, and after crossing the small AR-chaptered bridge, they arrived at the main hall and the house. The house was surrounded by water, and Deva's gray walls were reflected in the gurgling stream, making it impossible for them to spoil chapter other. To Feng Jiao, Su chapter, a beautiful courtyard was a huge irony. Alright, I have already opened your acupoints. Let's eat first. Wen Xingyuan knew that she was hungry, so he helped her put on her clothes and fastened her belt. Feng Jiao kept silent, thinking to herself, eating is the most important thing. After she recovers her strength, she can go back to the Prime Minister's estate. The food was still quite tasty. Wen Xingyuan chaptered her finish eating with a smile, but when she said that she wanted to go back, his expression turned long as he said, sooner or later, you'll be my woman. You'll stay here tonight. I will send Zhang Yi to report to you regarding the situation with the wind god. He was determined to marry her. After he forcefully hugged her and bathed together with her, he did not intend to let her off that night due to his high desire. Let's sleep together. He had taken off his clothes and naturally, he had also taken off her clothes. Seeing him in this state, Feng Jiao knew that there was no point in resisting. There seemed to be no difference between an active sleeping beauty and a passive sleeping beauty. And so, with a cold and lazy expression, she laid down on this magnificent mahogany bed. The bedding was covered in petals of pink chapterary blossoms that sparkled under the light of the luminous pearls inlaid on the fish skin of the South Sea people. Beaded crabapple blossoms were embroidered all over the jade-colored sheets. Yao, are you satisfied with this bed? He asked. Feng Jiao did not nod or shake her head, pretending that he was just mumbling to himself. She slowly closed her eyes. From her point of view, Wen Xingyuan had suppressed his lust with great difficulty from the last few times he had kissed her. Otherwise, why would he waste so much effort to come to his residence and ask her to have fun with him? In her heart, she did not hesitate to sneer. She had actually lost her heart in the ancient times. However, the man in front of her was determined to get her, and she wanted to use the pleasure of being intimate with him to forget about the man in her heart. In the end, she still wanted to be herself. As the heartless beauty of modern times, she was not responsible for eating the beautiful man. Of course, she was sure that she wouldn't have to take responsibility for this beautiful man in front of her. Because the more overbearing he was, the further that would force her away. When Xing was pressing down on hers, she only closed her eyes and did not softly communicate with him. Hence, a nameless rage rose from the bottom of his heart. Wen Xingyuan, no, it's too painful. No, it hurts. She had been too focused on her own thoughts just now, and hadn't even looked at the size of his. Yao, I want you. He was like a chapterita ready to strike, roaring loudly. A wind rose from his palm, and the jade-colored tent quietly slid down, covering the entire bed's chapter-arming spring light. Thus, the night was enchapterenting, and there was no limit to the color of spring. Chapter 80 Part 1 On the bed, the couple was having fun. The entire room was filled with lust, and the air was getting hotter and hotter. After a long time they finally stopped. When Wen Xingyuan just heard Feng Jiao's cry, her heart almost jumped out. He turned his head to see Feng Jiao. Her eyes were closed. Her small mouth slightly opened as she gasped for breath. Yao, I'm sorry. Wen Xingyuan hugged her seductive and smooth body and apologized gently. You've already done it. Is there any use in apologizing? Feng Jiao suddenly opened her eyes and looked at him coldly. Yao, I was wrong. I guarantee that I will be extremely good to you in the future. Wen Xingyuan loved her so much, and now he was apologizing after sex. Feng Jiao blinked her long, slender eyelashes. Her eyes were filled with longing. She then yawned and leaned over, sighing. I'm tired. Why don't you let me sleep for a while? Yao, Wen Xingyuan still wanted to say something, but seeing that Feng Jiao had fallen asleep, he could only sigh lightly and place the blanket on top of her naked body, as he stared at her beautiful sleeping face for a long time with a burning gaze. Zhang Yi sent a secret message to Wen Xingyuan at the door, informing him that Miss Feng's clothes had already been bought and placed at the entrance, telling him to retrieve them himself later. Wen Xingyuan immediately ordered Zhang Yi to go to the Feng residence to inform the Prime Minister Feng that he would take care of Feng Jiao in the future. Today, Feng Jiao had been tired for a whole day and had already gone to bed. Tomorrow, he would personally send Feng Jiao back, so Prime Minister Feng did not need to worry. On the auspicious day, he would go to the Prime Minister's mansion for purposing. Furthermore, after Feng Wucai heard Zhang Yi's report, his old face was filled with smiles. That's right. The candidate for son-in-law was finally someone that he was very satisfied with. Once Feng Jiao got married, she would become the first madam. How great was that? As for the matter of Feng Jiao not returning home at night, Feng Wucai pretended that nothing had happened. Since when Xing Yuan had sent word that he would pick an auspicious day to purpose, that meant that when Xing Yuan was extremely fond of Yao too. Hence, after thinking about it this way, Feng Wucai smiled in gratitude. After all, a while ago, the marriage annulment and illness had caused the market of Feng Jiao's wedding list to drop greatly. Now that he had Su Chapter a good son-in-law, Feng Wucai was naturally happy. When Feng Wucai thought about how Feng Jilin had been conferred the title of Noble Madam Lin, he immediately went to Feng Jilin's residence, Lotus Garden. Because Feng Jilin had been bestowed the title of Noble Madam Lin tonight, he was overjoyed. Even now, he still had not slept, and the candles in the room were flickering. Feng Wucai saw that there was light in her room, so he asked the servant to call for her. "Third miss, the old master is here." The servant called hurriedly from the door. Feng Jilin was shocked. She never thought that Father Feng would come so quickly. She thought that at the very least, Father Feng should only come tomorrow. After Feng Jilin put on his clothes, she opened the door and paid respects to Feng Wucai in the corridor. "Dad, you're looking for me?" Feng Jilin had a grudge against Feng Wucai in her heart. Her mother had been imprisoned in the cold fall yard, and had not come out yet. "I can't afford to call you father. You are now the noble Madam Lin of the Emperor." Feng Wucai thought of this useless and vain daughter, and felt a hiatachap tear. Was the harem that easy to enter? It was a place to bury a woman's youth. Therefore, when others wanted to send their daughters into the palace to seek power for him, he, Feng Wucai, had never had that intention. If it wasn't for the fact that Feng Jiao loved that king of Qi So Mu chapter that he wished to live and die, he wouldn't have agreed to the emperor's bestowal of marriage. Since Feng Jiqiong had become the secondary concubine of the king of Qi, even now, she still couldn't chapter the king of Qi's heart. It was likely that when her beauty had aged, she would still regret it. Feng Jilin would enter the palace tomorrow to serve the old emperor Xianyuan Kong. Therefore, Feng Wucai felt that as her father, he needed to warn her a little. "Father, Liner pleads for you. Please release my mother. The food and living conditions in the cold fall yard are simple and crude. She is used to living a life of luxury. If she is allowed to continue living like this, she will definitely be sick." Feng Jilin suddenly dropped to her knees in front of Feng Wucai with a thump. "That was because your mother was too despicable. She wanted to murder your daughter while I was not around, and even had conclusive evidence. Say, if I were to release your mother like this, who in this house would listen to my words in the future? Then do I not have any prestige at all? Liner, oh Liner, after you enter the palace, take care of yourself. Father, then can Liner meet mother before entering the palace?" Feng Jilin secretly hated herself and her mother for getting into Su chapter bad luck with Feng Jiao. "We can meet from afar, but we can't talk," Feng Wucai said coldly. After he finished speaking, he left the lotus garden with the servant. When Feng Jilin heard Feng Wucai's last words, tears fell like the rain. She thought to herself, "My father is so heartless. Why does she still miss Prime Minister's mansion So Mu chapter? When she had done well in the imperial palace, she would have the emperor bestow upon her mother the title of first-class royal madam. She would see who would dare to bully her and her daughter. Third miss, it's late, let's go to bed." Right now, Jiyu was serving Feng Jilin, and seeing that Feng Jilin was still awake, she gently walked over and advised her softly. "Jiyu, follow me to the palace, okay?" Feng Jilin stood up and smiled. She was not asking her, but telling her that she had made her decision. "Third miss, Jiyu is already 20 this year, and will be married to a chapter-old sweetheart at the end of the year. If Jiyu follows you to the palace, then Jiyu will have to delay the marriage," Jiyu said while kneeling down in a neither humble nor haughty manner. She was not the stupid third miss, and entering the palace was not a good job. "Are you saying that you don't want to follow me into the palace?" Feng Jilin thought that there was an beauty expert standing behind Jiyu. So how could she be willing to give up? Third miss, please help me. Jiyu knelt on the ground and kowtowed to her 3 times, hoping that she would let her go. Let's talk about this later. How about this? You will follow me to the palace for a period of time. After I familiarize myself with the life of the imperial harem, it won't be too late for you to leave. It's decided, you can get up. Feng Jilin looked at Jiyu with ridicule in her eyes. She was just a servant girl. How could she disobey her master's orders? Jiyu finally understood that if she followed third young miss in the future, she would not live for long. The miss was definitely a retarded person. She had to leave tonight. As for the indenture contract, she had already taken it back when she was the personal maid of Bai Wanting. If she wanted to flee, she would just lose a few coins. After thinking about it like this, when Jiyu saw that Feng Jilin had gone to bed, she closed the door and immediately went to her room. She placed all the gold, silver, treasure and banknotes that she had been saving for all these years into a small bundle, while carrying a big bundle on the outside. She tied a big bundle to her belly, pretended to have a big belly, and quietly walked out of the Lotus Garden. Lotus Garden could not be compared to Feng Wuxia's palace. The security here was not tight, and with the fact that she was extremely good with the little page boy Wang Er, who was guarding the gate earlier, she left quickly. When she arrived at the entrance, she saw 2 new doorkeepers in front of her, and immediately cried out in pain. "What chapter place are you from? Where are you going to go in the middle of the night?" The doorkeeper asked. "Ugh, my stomach chapter is hurting. I might have a baby soon." Third miss said I can't give birth in her courtyard. It's too dirty, too unlucky, and asked me go to the west suburbs where Nanny Wang Jing will give birth. Woo, I am so bad luck. She cried in pain and complained at the same time. That might be possible. Tomorrow, third miss will go to the palace and be a noble madam. Leave quickly. Doorkeeper nodded, thinking that the third miss was going to be a noble madam. She was indeed afraid of misfortune. Thus he chapter-raced Jiyu away like a fly. After Jiyu came out, she was not far away. She inadvertently raised her head and saw young Master Su Mayan's carriage. Is it young Master Su's carriage? Who are you? Su Mayan was still worrying. How could he not find Feng Jiao? He had previously visited the begonia garden, but Feng Jiao was not in her room. At this moment his tone was extremely bad. This servant is the maid called Jiyu who is serving in front of third young Mississippi. This humble servant will be forever grateful to young Master Su for saving my life. Jiyu quickly kneeled down and begged. She knew that if she could not leave Xianyang City, when Feng Jilin realized that she was gone, she would definitely send people to capture her. She wondered if young Master Su would save her life. What happened? You're carrying a burden like this? He asked curiously, seeing the bundle in her hand. The third miss wanted to bring this servant with her to the palace. This servant was unwilling, so I escaped. Jiyu explained. If you want this young master to save you, then at least give me a reason to take you in. Su Mayan looked at her. Your cooking skills are pretty good. Jiyu thought of this master of the mighty heavenly castle, who was fond of delicious food. She thought that as long as she was right, he would definitely take her in. Good. Get on the carriage. We will return to the mighty heavenly castle together. Oh yes, this young master remembers that my aunt, who was also your prime minister's mansion's second wife in the past, just happened to be short of a servant girl. I am too lazy to pick a servant girl, so you should go serve her. Su Mayan thought of Feng Jiqiong's mother, who was also his aunt. Previously, because of the matter of chapter reading on Feng Wuxia, she was divorced by Feng Wuxia. So her temper had been getting worse and worse recently, until all the girls were beaten up black and blue, making them all scared to go serve her. Now that he met an interesting girl, who even escaped from Prime Minister's mansion, then let her try. What? Let her to serve the second madam, whom the old master had abandoned? Why was she so unlucky? Fine, she'll go then. She's an unbeatable cockroach chapter. She would just chapter range it to another place to continue amassing wealth. Thank you, young Master Su, for taking me in. Jiyu kowtowed 3 times to Su Mayan, and under Su Mayan's gaze, she sat down gracefully on the shaft of the carriage, next to the CO chapterman. Su Mayan looked at the direction of the Prime Minister's mansion. He knew she would eventually return. Thinking of this, he turned and jumped onto the carriage, and ordered the carriage driver to return to the mighty heavenly castle. Chapter 80 Part 2 On the morning of the second day, it was drizzling, and the air was filled with the fragrance of grass. Feng Jiao woke up in Wen Xingyuan's arm. "Yao, are you awake?" Wen Xingyuan hugged her tightly, his beautiful eyebrows knitted together. Although this girl did not have Mu chapter fat, her small body made his arm painful. "Yeah, I'm awake." Feng Jiao opened her beautiful eyes and looked at the flower canopy that was hanging on the top of the bed. "Yao, although you are not a virgin, I do not care. I have already decided." When Xingyuan spoke very seriously, although he had a little grudge towards her since she wasn't a virgin, he could still ignore that. But I don't want to marry for the time being." Feng Jiao knew it was useless arguing with him, so she asked indifferently, "Why don't you want to get married?" When Xingyuan couldn't understand. With his good background, if it were any other girl, she would have jumped a few feet in happiness already. But her reaction was so indifferent. It was as if those wealthy conditions were nothing more than floating clouds. "I just don't want to." She didn't want to explain. She closed her eyes and said indifferently, "Yao, let's not talk about this. Can I help you wash your body first?" He knew that his bravery last night had tired her out. Ugh. All right then. Since the pretty boy wanted to personally serve her, then just let him be. I'll go up and down the bed and get a bucket of hot water for you to clean up. When Xingyuan kissed Feng Jiao on the forehead, then hurriedly put on his clothes and ran out to get some water. Feng Jiao couldn't figure out how she really felt about him. But no matter what, he was still very brave when he was on the bed. Although there was a slight difference between what had happened and what she had imagined, initiative and passivity. Eating a pretty boy was nothing. Besides, she was currently a golden single girl, so she should live a lazy and carefree life. Beautiful men were the regulator of life. Thinking of this, her lips curled up into a smile. So what if she was a slut? She only wanted to live the life that she had wanted to live. She only wanted to control her own fate. "Yao, the hot water is here. Let me help you clean up." Wen Xingyuan really went to bring a bucket of hot water and ran in sweating profusely. He gently helped her wash her clothes, including the most mysterious places. His handsome face turned from rosy red to calm. At this moment, he was truly an extremely gentle man. Of course, his gaze was always on her from top to bottom. "Yao's figure is extremely beautiful." He praised her generously. Feng Jiao smiled, but did not say a word. She was only considering whether or not she should go ask Li Mingqian about Li Jinran's whereabouts. "Yao, I will take care of you for the rest of your life." He began to confess again, making her speak chapterless. The gentle two-chapter of his hand made her sensitive snow-white skin tremble all the way. "Thank you." But she didn't need it. "Yao, we already did that. You are my wife. Can I call you my wife from now on?" When Xingyuan glanced at her with hope. "Yes," she agreed first, but didn't say that she would definitely be his wife. Great. When Xingyuan's mood was exceptionally good, and his energy was also exceptionally vigorous. Like a nimble leopard, he jumped up in an instant, and his enchapteranting body caused a trace of enchapterantment to flash past her eyes. Male. She suddenly realized that she still liked his manliness a little. Seeing that he was always aiming at her, she felt a little embarrassed, so she said, "I can do it myself. Give me the silk cloth." "My wife. You're so beautiful." When Xingyuan looked at Feng Jiao in a daze. Feng Jiao's gentle hair was stuck to her chapter-arming little face, suffused with a light fragrance of hair and a woman's seductive body, causing his heart to become intoxicated. Thus he could not help but call out, "What?" Feng Jiao was a little dazed. Didn't she hear what he just said? Therefore, Feng Jiao looked at him and asked. But when she saw the infinite gentleness in Wen Xingyuan's eyes, she finally understood. It was all because of her body. "My wife, I can't take it anymore." After saying that, Wen Xingyuan immediately explained everything to her. This time, it had to be the magnificent sex. It was almost noon when the two of them got up. Feng Jiao pun-chaptered him again. My wife, why did you beat on my chapterist? When Xingyuan could not understand. He was clearly working very hard just now. And she was also very happy. Why did she treat him like this after he was done? Her strength was so great. The beating he received was excruciating. Last night and this morning, I was tortured to death by you. Do you know that my body feels like it has been crushed by a wheel? Feng Jia rolled her eyes at him. My wife, last night was my first time experiencing the beauty of your body. That's why I worked so hard, hoping that I could make you happy. When Xingyuan laughed helplessly, it was not easy for him to do it, naturally. He had to grasp her tightly. Who told his beloved to have su-chapter and in-chapterenting and sweet body? Even he couldn't resist it. Therefore he could not hold it in any longer. He needed to unleash a massive explosion. The first time. As for him, he was already in his 20s. In the ancient times, there were many men who were already married and had chapter-children. It's true, my wife. I've never two-chaptered another woman before. I have my principles. When it comes to matters between men and women, only those who love a chapter other will feel happy about it. So my wife, I'm absolutely serious about you. When Xingyuan explained in a voice filled with emotion, making her a little disbelieving. My wife, it's really my first time. You have to believe me. When Xingyuan thought that Feng Jiao did not believe him, and immediately stated his affirmation once again. Got it you. When Xingyuan, a pure man. After Feng Jiao finished speaking, she immediately laughed while covering her mouth. Sometimes, even this seemingly shrewd man could be that silly. But all of a sudden, she felt that she no longer hated him as mu-chapter as last night. Sure enough, women were fickle. When Feng Jiao thought about how she almost lost the day before, at Blue Festival's banquet, when her snow-white skirt slipped and fell. Shen Qinghan, Ling Huzi Chapter's junior sister. The junior sister of the Xiliang Kingdom's second prince. Good, very good, she's dead for sure. When Xingyuan suddenly saw Feng Jiao's face darken, and asked worriedly, Why are you so worried? Do you know why I jumped naked in the water last night? Feng Jiao laughed brightly. She was suddenly angered to the extreme, and asked a question in reply. Don't you want to jump into the kind of world-shocking dance? When Xingyuan was curious. I'm not the one who wanted to dance. I was forced. Feng Jiao shook her head. Then why did you still dance? When Xingyuan asked in a low voice, his tone extremely sour. He chaptered out his arms and hugged her very tightly, almost as if they were inseparable. He really didn't want her to let so many people see her in-chapterenting body again. Do you remember my dancing dress made of chapterifan? Feng Jiao asked. When Xingyuan nodded his head, then continued to wonder, what did it have to do with the clothes? I was shot through a corner of the train with a concealed weapon, and then my entire dress slipped off. If I hadn't thought of a way to perform a stunning dance, I wouldn't have been able to get the top spot. That's why, later on you saw the shocking naked dance in the water. Feng Jiao said while gnashing her teeth. Who was the one who used the concealed weapon? When Xingyuan wanted to immediately get up and send people to investigate. You know that person as well. After Feng Jiao finished speaking, she looked at the expression on his face. He knew that person. Who was that? Just tell me directly. If I knew him, I wouldn't have shown mercy. A trace of unswerving determination swept across when Xingyuan's handsome face. Your good friend, Ling Huzi Chapter's junior sister Shen Qinghan. When Feng Jiao finished speaking, she saw the astonishment on Wen Xingyuan's face. How could it be her? Although she was a bit unruly, she shouldn't have acted that way towards you, right? When Xingyuan was in disbelief. It's a star-shaped weapon flying very quickly. At that time, I was trying to maintain my calm, did not settle the score with her immediately. Feng Jiao thought that since she didn't even need to learn her martial arts properly, she would take Shen Qinghan's little life. Not killing her would be enough to make her suffer painfully. My wife, I will make Shen Qinghan apologize to you. When Xingyuan frowned slightly, although Shen Qinghan was being excessive, it was still too mu-chapter to kill her. Hee, let's just forget about apologizing. Forget it, this is a matter between her and I, stop meddling in it. After Luan chapter, You can send someone to send me back to Prime Minister's mansion. I didn't even return home last night, so my father and my little girls should be worried. Feng Jiao didn't even hope for him to take revenge for her. Seeing her calm face again, Wen Xingyuan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that his answer didn't satisfy her? My wife, did I say something wrong? You're not happy. A man in love would always worry about his personal gains and losses. Thus was no exception. You have your own considerations, Feng Jiao said lightly. Her meaning was that she would avenge herself. My wife, Qinghan's father saved my life so, thus, he could not repay kindness with hatred. Wen Xingyuan wanted to say something but stopped himself. Didn't I already say it? I'll take care of my own business. Don't worry about it. Now let's get up. I think, as the patriarch chapter of the number 1 family in Nanshao Kingdom, you must be very busy. So, hurry up and eat it. Do what you have to do. Feng Jiao already walked towards the glass mirror to get dressed up. Yesterday, I asked Johnny to help you take a few sets of clothes from a clothing store that is under the name of One Family. Take a look at WHI Chapter 1 you like, and you can wear it. Wen Xingyuan said with a smile. Feng Jiao nodded indifferently. After putting on a light makeup, she washed her face and rinsed her mouth. Under Wen Xingyuan's gentle eyes, the two of them had Luan chapter together. Wen Xingyuan had the nagging feeling that Feng Jiao seemed to be a woman who was like the wind. She was actually very, very far away from him. It was as if she was looking at the scenery outside the carriage. The expression on her face was light and relaxed, as if nothing had happened last night or the morning before. It caused him, who was extremely confident, to feel at a loss and pain. My wife. Wen Xingyuan wanted to say something but hesitated. What? Feng Jiao asked indifferently. Chapter 80 Part 3. Oh, it's at the Prime Minister's mansion's gate. Just as he was about to speak, the carriage had already arrived at the entrance of Prime Minister's mansion. When Wen Xingyuan saw her doubtful gaze, he did not say anything further. He only extended his arm out towards her and wanted to hug her gently, but she shook her head and rejected him. We're here. I believe you've wasted the entire morning. It's about time for you to get busy. I won't invite you to the begonia garden. Feng Jiao laughed faintly, her smile becoming distant. Then, all right, I'll come and see you another time. Oh right, W chapter gold shop's jewelry do you like? When Xingyuan thought about the matter of him sending people to Prime Minister's mansion to purpose soon. Jewelry? Feng Jiao asked suspiciously. Do you want to give me jewelry? Yes, you're my wife now. I'm willing to spend money. When Xingyuan's calm voice sounded, making her unable to blame him. At the end of the day, she was also responsible for the events from last night. She shouldn't have been the one to show off and provoke him over here. And now she was being eaten instead. She suddenly had a feeling that she had lost everything. Let's talk about this later. I'm too tired, so I'll go back and rest first. Farewell. Feng Jiao lightly frowned and gracefully walked down the carriage. When Xingyuan wanted to stop her, but he endured it in the end. He comforted himself that there would be a day when he would be able to enter her heart. Who was Weiyang? It looks like he had to send people to find out the identity of the Weiyang that was on her mind. Johnny, when Xingyuan shouted, please give me your instructions, young master. Johnny hurriedly replied. He was afraid that his own young master would ask him to go and fetch chapter the woman's clothes again. Thus, when he heard Wen Xingyuan's voice, his body trembled lightly. Immediately get someone to investigate the woman called Weiyang. When Xingyuan instructed, once he heard the two words Weiyang, he felt extremely uncomfortable. I shall follow your orders, young master. Johnny nodded. Looks like this Weiyang must have offended young master. Usually, the people who were targeted by the young master wouldn't have a good ending. Feng Jiao returned to the begonia garden. Feng Wuxia immediately rushed over. After Feng Jiao dismissed the little girl, the father and daughter started talking. Father, last night Feng Jiao thought that this wasn't the 21st century. She hadn't come back last night, so Father Feng would definitely scold her if she found out. Yao, were you with Wen Xingyuan last night? Because he saw that this direct daughter was carried away by the patriarch chapter of the first family, Wen Xingyuan. Yes, father. Feng Jiao knew that she could not hide the truth from him. Yaoer, I've inquired, regardless of chapter actor or family background, when Xing Yuan is a candidate for a good husband, I believe that he is suitable to be your husband. What do you think? Although he was certain that something had happened between Wen Xing Yuan and his daughter last night, he still wanted to ask her opinion. Dad, I still don't want to get married. Please don't kick me out, okay? Feng Jiao thought that she really wanted to sleep, so she begged Father Feng not to ask anymore. Yao, are you chapter-illed? What are you saying? Your father is worried about you. Your daughter's family will eventually get married. You can't possibly stay home and stay for the rest of your life, right? Look, your two concubines have younger sisters than you and are already married. As for the other concubines, their younger sisters have not even grown old yet. You are the only one that I am worried about right now. Feng Wuxia sighed and slowly sat on the redwood chapter and said with a caring tone, Father, when I want to marry off your daughter, I will naturally tell you that I don't want to marry off your daughter right now. That's right. As the patriarch chapter of the first family, when Xing Yuan's status is honorable, so it's more than enough for me to marry you. Dad, I'm tired. I want to lie down for a while. Please go back. Feng Jiao raised her eyebrows, then sat down as well, before lifting her hands to knock on her legs. Maybe it was because there were too many bad things happening last night, causing her to feel pain between her legs. It was true that a virgin man was not to be trifled with. From the first tender moment to the next, EA chapter and every bravery was enough to leave her tongue-tied. Alright Yaoer, then you take a shower and rest. Feng Wuxia nodded, and after standing up, he suddenly thought of a problem. Yaoer, the person who shot the concealed weapon at you, will be ended by your father. No need. Dad, I will take care of my own matters. Feng Jiao indifferently objected. Oh right, father, release little sister Linner's mother from Cold Fall Yard. Feng Jiao did not want her father to be troubled, hence he said, Why did you let that bit chapter go? She's deluded herself into murdering you. Feng Wuxia disagreed. Father, if noble Madame Lin talks to the old emperor, the future of Prime Minister's mansion will be bleak. There's no need to rush to deal with by wanting. Feng Jiao smiled sweetly and said with confidence, Yaoer is far better than I thought. Alright, when that bit chapter comes out, you better be careful. Feng Wuxia reminded. Father, Yaoer is not afraid. There was someone who wanted to play games with Yaoer, so Yaoer should definitely provide them with an opportunity, right? If it's too boring, will Yaoer find life boring? It was because her life was too depressing that she had to make a clown out of it. Feng Jiao's eyes quickly flashed with a glint of light. Locking by wanting in the Cold Fall Yard was really too easy on her. Yaoer, you can play with me however you want, but by wanting cannot die. Before Feng Wuxia left, he left behind a profound sentence. Can't die? Then may she have plenty of ways to torture her. When Feng Wuxia left, Hongmi and Ziyin carried a bucket of hot water for her to bathe in. Maybe because of Feng Wuxia's order to keep their mouths shut, or maybe because they knew their own responsibilities. Regarding the incident of Feng Jiao not returning last night, the two of them did not mention a single word about it. Feng Jiao was also lazy to explain. After letting them out, she took a quick hot bath. After washing up, she fell into a deep slumber. She only woke up at noon on the second day. It seemed that she really had slept soundly. On September 23rd, Feng Jiao finally walked out of Begonia Garden. Previously in Begonia Garden, she had either personally made delicacies or slept, as if she hadn't slept enough. Eldest miss, do you want master to go to the palace and invite an imperial physician over to take a look? Look at how your complexion isn't very good. Hongmi said worriedly, just because Feng Jiao seemed to be infected with a lethargy. Hongmi, don't spout nonsense. The young miss's face is flushed red. Don't you dare spout nonsense in front of the young miss. Ziyin did not believe that there was a problem with Feng Jiao's body, because when she was by this elder's side, she knew a little about medical skills. Hee, you two girls don't argue with the A chapter other. I know you two are worried about me. Feng Jiao raised her eyebrows and laughed. The speaker had no intention, but the listener had. Feng Jiao thought, If she really contracted some kind of illness, then what about her own free life and her great dream? Did she really have to go out and see a doctor to see if she was sick? Ziyin, come with me. Hong me. Today the young miss will let you off the hook. Feng Jiao said while grinning, as if she was in a good mood today. Yes, eldest Mississippi. The two of them nodded and smiled. But Ziyin was curious. How could the young miss allow her to go today? When they arrived at the carriage, Ziyin found out that the young miss wanted her to be her accomplice. After Ziyin heard Feng Jiao's twisted logic, she thought that the things Miss wanted her to do did not conflict with Master's interests, so she agreed. The carriage sped along the public road, and after 2 hours, arrived at the Fengyan Hotel in Xianyang. Feng Jiao brought Ziyin to Sky number 1 room. After knocking for a while, someone finally opened the door. You Feng Jiao, why are you looking for me? Ling Huzi Chaptier was surprised to see her the day before their departure. Of course I have something to talk to you about. Oh yeah, WA chapter room does your junior sister sleep in? I want to see her. Feng Jiao saw that he was the only person in the room. A book was open on the table, and he seemed to be reading a moment ago. The little junior sister will go with my third junior brother to buy things. We will be leaving the Xianyang tomorrow. Ling Huzi Chaptier originally wanted to not say it, but for some reason, when he saw her, he couldn't help but say it out loud, hoping that he could hear her persuading him to stay. Why don't you play for a few more days? There are so many historical sites in the Xianyang, and there are many fun places as well. Feng Jiao frowned. Damn, Shen Qinghan was going to return tomorrow. If she did not take revenge now, she would not have the chapterance in the future. But Pilking Valley has a lot of things. I have to go back and take care of it. Third junior brother is very busy too. Ling Huzi Chaptier was very happy to hear her persuading him to stay. Although he didn't know why she said it like that, he was still very happy. Ziyin, wait for me in the carriage. I'll go with you after I finish asking some questions. Looked at the sky. Since the sun was setting in the west, she would wait for Shen Qinghan here for the time being. Yes, Mississippi. Ziyin heaved a sigh of relief. The first miss was planning to let her go, but Ziyin felt that the first miss had become more and more mysterious recently. Feng Jiao saw that Ziyin had went downstairs to the carriage, so she leaned close to Ling Huzi Chaptier and whispered, I might be sick, and I know that your medical skills are extremely good, so I came to find you. Please get in. Ling Huzi Chaptier was surprised to hear this. Brother Z Chaptier, let me still call you that, hee. Feng Jiao smiled as he followed him in. Sure. On the contrary, it sounded kind, so he nodded in agreement. Specifically the symptoms you discovered. After Ling Huzi Chaptier poured her a cup of tea, he asked her to sit with him face to face. I've been very drowsy for the past few days, but I've been sleeping longer than usual. I'm a bit worried that I'm sick, or that my father is worried, so I didn't dare call a doctor to come see me. Feng Jiao slowly narrated her feelings. Saying that, Ling Huzi Chaptier nodded his head, and then with a swoosh, a thin golden thread wrapped around her slender wrist. Feng Jiao looked up worriedly at Ling Huzi Chaptier. She seemed to want to find some clues from his P-chapter blossom eyes. But seeing that Ling Huzi Chaptier was silent, with a calm expression, his P-chapter blossom eyes did not show any chapter ranges. W-chapter made Feng Jiao nervous. With a slight move of his hand, the gold thread wrapped around Feng Jiao's wrist disappeared, and he ridiculed. You are worrying too, Mu Chapter. You are not sick at all. Maybe you are too tired from this stage. Tired? Feng Jiao suddenly remembered. It must be because of that night, and the wild love she had with Wen Xingyuan that day. Thinking about that, Feng Jiao's white face turned red. Since I'm not sick then I'll have a cup of tea and leave. Damn it, Feng Jiao's body was too weak. Wasn't it just a few times? Why was she so tired? To the point that she slept for 2 consecutive days. Alright, here's the broken spring silver needle. Xingyuan gave it to me to drink. Ling Huzi Chaptier put away the golden thread properly, and looked up at her. Oh, the stuff from the number 1 family should be pretty good. Feng Jiao laughed like a P-chapter in spring. Her beautiful eyes that flickered with starlight stared straight at him. Ling Huzi Chaptier's eyes flashed. He had just seen her smiling face that was like a blossoming flower, and he had actually thought of blaspheming her. Could it be that he wanted to hide from his junior sister's infatuation? Big brother Z chapped here. Thank you for the tea, I should go. Seeing that Shen Qinghan the woman was not back yet, Feng Jiao wanted to go downstairs and wait, so she stood up and said, maybe because her sleeves were too flowing and long, she actually accidentally dropped the stack of books on the table. Don't pick it up, I'll pick it up myself. Ling Hu Zichaptir picked up the book one step ahead of her in panic. Ah, you're actually looking at. It's really the secret Tay chapter Neeks in bed? When she saw one of the books, Feng Jiao shouted, ah, before covering her mouth with her hand and laughing. This time, her smile made Ling Hu Zichaptir, whose face was blushing red, feel like burrowing into a hole in the ground. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.